few people this morning already. It's only 10:02. Hello, everybody. Hello, beautiful divine beings. How's everyone? Christine's very good. Yeah, I just want to wish Jody a very special birthday. Earth Day for you, Jody. Vic. You're welcome, Jody. Oh, I can see your face, Holly. Hello. Hi, Holly. Right. Does anyone else say hello? How you going?
Hello.
Oh, Edward, you're a cracker.
Oh, thank you.
Morning, Grace.
Hello, Christine. How are you?
Oh, I'm really good, thank you.
Excellent. How many of you guys were listening into yesterday? Man, that was a spiritual warfare or what yesterday morning in our event.
Yes, Grace, it was. It definitely was. And, you know, after you and Warren did that work and lifted that energy off that, I'm getting goosebumps. I just felt it broke everything open. I really did. And it's not just there, it's here. And, you know, last night I was walking around here and I felt it was just different. And it's everywhere. It's just everything.
Absolutely. Like yesterday, seriously, for those who attended and you're online, we tested the sound, the technical. Even Travis went through the whole thing the whole week. He was driving us crazy with it because he was doing test after test after test for the whole week. It was great to go. Friday night was great to go. Even Saturday morning before we started, it was great. But when we started, all hell broke loose. So interesting, isn't it? And it was in line with, as you know, you guys would be aware that they had the Australia-wide rally as well happening all throughout Australia.
I feel it was really interesting because the energy certainly cranked up as the day went on as well, Grace.
Oh, did you sense that? Because you were there all day, Christine. Did you sense that?
I did. It sort of just got like higher and higher.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really amazing. And for me, it went on all night. It was like I did nothing all day, and yet it was the busiest day and night that I've ever had in my entire life, I think.
Yeah, because you were there all day? Did
you
join us? Yeah. It was just insane, and like we were going crazy. Warren had enough. And so it's like, hang on, let's just check. Let's just go out of the room. So while Steve was doing his presentation, we went out of the room. It's like, let's get into the astral realm and deal with it spiritually. And afterwards, it just went smooth. It got smoother and smoother after.
Definitely did.
Yeah. Did that affect you, Christine? So you had to leave, did you? So it's just one of those things that sometimes, you know, again, you can do all the practical side, getting it perfect and getting as much as you can, and then these things happen in the forces. And so sometimes you really firstly, what we do is deal with the spiritual. And so it's all about behind the scene. It's the behind the scene that if you deal with that, then things will come out smoothly. Well, that's our experiences anyway. So after Steve's presentation yesterday, it just got smoother. We felt it calmed. And unfortunately, those who were on live yesterday morning was, you know, A lot of them were irritated, which I don't blame them, and frustrated. We were as frustrated ourselves behind the scene. I was jumping up and down all the time, going back and forth, checking everything and assisting as much as we can.
Persecuting, don't forget that.
Pardon?
And also persecuting in your example of the drama triangle.
Yes.
Well, think of poor Travis. Imagine how he felt.
Oh,
I would have been throwing things across the room by then, I think.
oh, Travis. Oh, he copped it. Imagine, Steve, there's Warren and myself going at Travis. And he was excellent. Really, really. That's what we call a character. It's like, chill, guys. I'm onto it. I'm doing this as best as I can, and it's not making it any better. The two of you jumping up and down.
So he was centered the whole time, right? You two were running around the drama triangle, being persecutors and victims, and Travis was centered. A beautiful example of the drama triangle in operation.
I must admit, he was very centered. Hey, wasn't he, Edwin? So he was really centered.
Maybe being in the scene, all one the same.
And it's also always fun doing it to both of you because you always get more worked up when you're dealing with someone centered.
Look, I take full ownership of everything that I am. If I become a persecutor, I will do it with all my heart and all my soul, and don't deny it at all. Well, it's either you're hot or cold. And Naomi, welcome.
Hello, I made it. I had a few issues getting on, but I went, that's not happening today.
Welcome. Naomi goes back way at 2001, you said?
Yes.
So here's Naomi coming to me yesterday like, Grace, remember me at 2001? You prayed for me. It's like, yes, I did, Naomi. I really remember it distinctly.
Lying on the floor.
Remember, I just had
I was double over in abdominal pain. It was abdominal pain.
Wow. And remember, I just had my first baby in 2001, so I still had a baby brain.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
It's good to see you here, Naomi.
Oh, yes, I decided I'll no matter what, I'm getting on. Yeah.
Yeah, welcome. Naomi was there too all day yesterday. And that was a real spiritual warfare, wasn't it, Naomi?
Oh, yes, it was. Absolutely. Yeah. But we got through it.
We did. We did. I just feel for those online, because if you don't understand these things, you can really judge it according to the 3D, which is understandable.
Yeah. I work with technology, so I know. But I had that issue this morning. My internet kept dropping out before I came on.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, very interesting. I went, no, this is not going to happen. Yeah, so I've sorted this out. So good.
Mm-hmm. And don't forget, we got the collective. Imagine the collective yesterday. It was the rally Australia-wide.
Oh, yes.
So you had some rest or whatever was happening. I didn't really keep an eye on it, but apparently there's a lot of happening in Melbourne. Steve,
okay.
What was happening in Queensland? Because most people was involved in it.
Yeah, well, just two things. One, the irony of it was how smoothly and perfectly everything worked at sound check the night before. Then on the day when it happened, when the energies had shifted and whatnot, how much it stuffed up. Like that was just fascinating to see. Perfection to complete imperfection just shows about our attachments. There was lots of shifting energies. Some guy got arrested at the Brisbane March for flying a drone. I don't know why that's an arrestable offence, but he was.
He got arrested.
Yeah, marches were abused by people wearing masks, for being stupid and irresponsible. And, I think the media's reported, a small crowd of a couple of thousand. In reality, there was probably 20 or 30,000 there.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Where's your
lots
face,
of
Steve?
energy. I can't see yours, Ed.
Yeah, Edward, put your face on so everyone can see your face.
I don't want to tease.
Well, they are only human, Ed, but come on, they've got to get used to it. They've got to learn to cope with that.
Yes, Edward. Have you got your lights on? Edward's office is like a studio. Seriously.
Well, like it's like a hippie. It looks more hippie than an office.
Well, come on, turn your camera on.
I'll just build up the anticipation.
Let's see. Pam said in Queensland was peaceful and like a music concert. That's great. So we're kind of a bit of a, I'm kind of a bit spaced out after yesterday, to be honest. There was so much activity happening.
Yeah, agreed.
So anyone else would like to share what's happened for you over the last 24 hours?
What has happened? Hello, can you hear?
We did hear you, but you're muted.
Unmute. Hello?
Hi.
No, I've lost my earphones. So I don't know if you can hear me or not.
I can hear you. Can you hear us?
Okay. Yesterday in the morning at the group, in the sort of spiritual format of it, I was flying high all over the place. And then by the afternoon, I felt like I'd really grounded. I felt really naturalized. Like I'd come back to earth. Like I feel like I've been flying around erratically for so long, and I felt really good. And yeah, it's still sort of, I'm tired today, like really tired, but I feel good. I feel good. Sort of mellow, more centered, if I'm going to use the terminology, more centered at this point today anyway, at this moment. So yeah.
That's great.
And I love the content. That was all really good. I love the spiritual stuff. I like the financial stuff, but I've got a big block about it, which is probably why I'm in this position that I'm in. Because I always think when the energetic stuff comes on, that's when I sort of light up and think, oh, yeah, that's my space. But I know I've got to put my mind to finances, because I often think, well, I want to look at the finances, but my heart's not in it. So that's the kind of block that I need to stop, because I've got a lot of financial rebuilding to do, which would be an understatement. But yeah, anyway, yeah, I feel all right.
Yeah. So for those who went, I mean, what's your thoughts on the drama triangle? Because some people, I've spoken to one particular guy, and he said it's one said it was, yeah, he knew it, and it's very he was familiar with it, but it was good to know. And there was another guy that said to me, it seems basic, but yet looking at it, there has to be more than that. And I said, yeah, that actually it's difficult to break it down in 10 minutes.
Mm.
How did that happen? Who muted me?
Oh,
Okay.
is that possible to do? I just put the volume up. Maybe that was me. I don't know.
No, it wasn't you,
It's probably
Sharon.
Edward.
Okay, good.
It
That
was
was
Edward.
me. I accidentally muted you because I was going to let someone in, but then someone saw it first.
I do that to Steve. Yeah. Oh, Steve, before I'm going to do a pump up for Steve. You're coming today, not Vincent. What's going on here?
Yeah,
You can-
I don't know. In my
okay.
tiredness, I just didn't change the thing on.
Hey, Mrs. Evans, check this out.
Oh, wow.
Look how big the book is.
What? It's a big book.
Well, for those who've seen me face to face, this is how big Steve's book is.
Wow.
And it's absolutely fabulous. So what I'm going to do with this book is that this is his personal journey, guys. And you know, when you really the first question you ask is, you know, knowing yourself, isn't it? The first golden rule is knowing yourself. And I'm going to do a bit of a pump up for Steve without any shame or guilt. This book is really much needed for all of us and those who really have deep reflection on finding who you are, knowing thyself. Because it's a real life, you know, because I know Steve as well, there's nothing like knowing the writer, the author. And I've witnessed his journey the last 2 years as well. And it's just a wonderful, this is from the heart and from the mind, truly from the heart, from his heart, his journey in finding himself. And to me, it's like, I'm actually going to go through, taking this to Albany with me, Steve, because I'm doing a 3-day workshop with some wonderful group of people. And I'll bring this along. I'm going to utilize your questions to dig deep. Are you ready for it, Mrs. Evans?
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
As well, because it's not necessarily easy. A lot of fun, but not easy.
Yeah. So it is, isn't it? So it's wonderful. I'm even looking forward to writing. I mean, personally, I'm like you, Tanya. Actually, I don't like writing in my books, but what I will do is get a A5 paper, and all the questions that Steve's asked in each page, I'm actually going to write it in the A5 form paper and put it in the pages, because it's a good idea to do. Because if you do that every 3 months, you see how much growth you have and what you've encountered, the fresh revelations you've had. So that's what I'm going to do.
Could you open the page so I can see what the layout looks like?
What, the questions?
No, because I know that there's a poem, Steve's reflections, and a part to write your own reflections. So I just wanted to see what it would look like.
All right. Okay. So is that all right, Steve?
Yeah, of course.
Here we go. So you've got the poem on this side, and then Steve's reflection on this side. And the next page is your reflections.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So there's exercises in each. I picked different exercises for different poems and different things to prompt you to go inwards.
Yeah, I like your questions, Steve. Very good, excellent prompters.
Yeah, they're different for each poem because each poem's obviously about a different part of me and you, and so it requires a different approach. You know, whether it's about family or communication or love or nature or how you think about yourself, how you show up in the world. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's very easy on the eye. So Edward, get Steve's book, Ed. Start writing it for yourself.
I will.
Yeah, so that's it. Plugging Steve without any shame.
I'll put the URL in the chat if anyone wants to check it out anyway.
As Dad said, he brought the balance, saying it looks like a lot of love and light crap, Steve.
Well, Warren, yeah, I mean, that's typical of your judgment. If you actually look into it, there's actually not a lot of love and light in there, right? It's pretty hard hitting. So I won't go too hard, Warren. I don't want to see you cry again like yesterday. So that was painful enough, right? Watching that.
Steve, my kitchen will say it's a bunch of crap, Steve. I mean, all this love and light, loving you. Who's going to
I actually missed most of what you said, Warren. You cut out a bit. What a shame.
Holly, what did you think of his crying?
He's a great actor. It was very convincing. Very convincing.
For those of you who didn't come, what we did was we did a role play of the drama time. So we were what can we do to present something that's simple and that everyone can have a good grasp and they can take away home in order to bring symmetry and balance into their life. And so we had 2 types of role play, and it was just fantastic. Edward did one of them, and the other one was with Warren, and it was very interesting indeed. And I think that really lightened up the room as well, having that role play. It just broke all the tension from the morning, and everything just changed after that. Yeah, would you agree, Naomi?
I agree. I thought it was great.
And Jasmine's here. Hello, Jazzy. You survived yesterday?
Yes, I did. I would go on camera right now, but I feel like I got bread poisoning. I'm not meant to eat bread. Sorry. No, it was awesome. Thank you so much to everyone for coming. And it was just, a really great day. I've been reflecting all morning, and I just bought Steve's book, so I'm super excited to get that as well.
Yay.
Yeah, so thank you.
Oh, thank you.
No worries.
It might take 4 weeks to get to you, Jasmine.
It's okay. 4 weeks I can reflect on yesterday, and then we'll get there and we'll get to work.
No, we found a new method of shipping, so it won't be too long.
Just about 3.5 weeks. No probs.
Yeah, that's great. And also for those of you guys who are available, we started connecting on Wednesday mornings from 9 a.m. our Perth time. So if you guys are free at 9 a.m., we just connect, grab a cuppa for an hour, and just start connecting with each other. Getting to know one another. It's, in this kind of platform, it's we have all the different ideas, and it's more challenging to get to know each other. And so we've started that 9 a.m. If you guys can come, it's an invitation. I normally have a muffin with me and a cup of coffee, and then we just chat and whatever's in your heart and get to know one another.
Good idea.
Yeah, because the thing is, there's so much action right now. There's so many things happening. There's so many groups, and oh my goodness, you can get lost in the whole labyrinth of what's happening, isn't it? And it's important to really, if you can, as much as you can, really communicate what's going on. Otherwise, you get dragged down into, into solid matter. So it's good to just to get it out, get it off your chest, and start really connecting with others, and just air it out, air whatever needs to be aired out. Oh yeah, I love your bookmark, Steve. Check that out. It says, "Find my heart, find my voice, find myself, find my path, find my love, find me. Actually, I read that very, very slowly yesterday, and when I received the book, and it just has that meaning. When you really read it slowly, it's like chewing your food and eating your food slowly. You can taste every little flavor, every fiber. So that's what I was doing with the bookmark. Find my heart, find my voice. So it's all about that. So have you found your voice? Have you found your heart? Finding yourself. Have you found your path? Have you found your own love? And have you found you? I actually, Christine, if it's okay with you, how's it going? I actually asked her to do an exercise where looking at her heart. Are you okay to share, Christine, how the process has been going for you?
Yes, I am happy to share. You gave me 2 exercises to do, and one of them was just to remember me, and that was just to be still and feel every part of my body. The interesting thing about that was that doing that, even the parts that were physically painful before I started disappeared, but I could feel the other parts that needed attention when I was in that space. That was absolutely remarkable for me. But when I did the second exercise, for some reason it wasn't the same. So I didn't get the same amount out of it as I did out of the first one. So I'm not quite sure what that was. That was looking inward to my heart. So I'm reflecting on that right at the moment to see what the difference is. But having said that, I'm thinking that maybe it has worked, but I didn't even know it because I've had some amazing shifts in the last day. It's just remarkable. As I said to you yesterday, I felt as if I'd done nothing, but it was the busiest day of my life, and that's exactly how it felt.
Well, do nothing and everything will be done for you.
Yeah, it was true, Steve. It was physical. Didn't have to do anything physical. Everything was done, and then spiritually everything was done as well. It was quite remarkable because I was really aware of that spiritual attack yesterday. I just knew what was happening. And when that broke through, and I think because I really, really knew what was going on, it took something off me, took something off this house.
Oh, really? Wow.
I walked through the house last night, Grace. It was dark, it was cold, and it just felt beautiful. Be interesting to see if we can feel the difference. So, and then this morning I had some amazing revelations, and I've also there's some interesting things that have even turned up regarding the way forward with some things that we've got projects on. It's quite remarkable. So that exercise, Grace, I can't say that it didn't work because how do I know? You just don't know what's going on.
The thing is, it's opened you up more. What do we got? Sashi says she's feeling everything right now. Everything hurts. It's such a simple exercise, remembering you. It's just inward journey. Mm. And feeling everything about you, because it's all subjective experience. The Gnostics teach all about subjective experience, and and that's really what we're here for, and starting to feel. So, Steve, speaking of feeling, we normally do the heart and coherence in the beginning. Do you feel like to do that towards the end before one starts, or do you want to do it now?
Well, we can do it now if you. Yeah, it might be a nice time to do it because now's a good time. Yeah. I'll just ask it. Make sure everyone's muted. That'll be good just to keep the sanctity of the moment, I guess. So, all right. I won't do the preamble, but I'll do, just so I can touch my heart space. I'll take everyone through this. So there are 3 steps to it, and remember, it's about harmonizing the little brain and the heart with the big brain in the head, so that we are quote unquote complete as we journey through, and it opens up the subconscious and the healing chemistry as well. So step number 1 is to shift your awareness from your thinking mind, where we spend so much of our time, into our feeling heart. And so I invite you to gently touch your heart center, either with an open palm, a finger or a couple of fingers, whatever is comfortable for you. So just close your eyes and gently touch your heart space. And I'm doing that right here. And the reason we do that is that our awareness always goes to the place on the body where we feel the touch. And this draws our awareness from our thinking, busy mind, brain, to our heart space. It sends a signal that I'm turning my attention inward. So that's step number 1. So just close your eyes and lightly, gently touch your heart center in whatever way is comfortable. And step number 2 is to slow your breathing. And so I invite you to breathe in through the nose for a count of 5, to hold for a count of 5, and then out through the mouth for 5. So just together, we'll breathe in for a count of 5. Hold for 5. Then out through the mouth for 5. And again, in through the nose for 5. And hold. And then out through the mouth for 5. And once more, from the place you feel the touch, breathe in. Hold for 5. Then out through the mouth for 5. And when we do this, it tells the body that we're in a safe place, because the only time we breathe like this is when you feel safe. So it's a signal for the body to let go of feelings of stress and all the stress hormones that seem to flood our system through large parts of our day. And it awakens the healing chemistry, because the body can only do one thing or the other. It can heal or it can stress. And this gives the body permission to awaken all of those healing chemicals within us. And so again, I invite you to breathe in for a count of 5 from that place you feel the touch. Hold for 5. Out for 5. And again, in through the nose for 5. Hold. And out through the mouth for 5. And then step number 3, this is key. We're the only species on the planet that can do this. So I invite you to create a feeling in your heart from the place you feel the touch, from the place where you were just breathing from, to the best of your ability, to feel one or a combination of care for anyone or anything, appreciation, for anyone or anything, gratitude or compassion. These 4 key words, scientists found that they trigger that connection between the heart and the brain. So to the best of your ability, to feel the feeling of one or a combination of care, appreciation, gratitude, compassion, from that place where you feel the touch, and just to sit with that feeling as you generate that feeling to the best of your ability. And just to finish off, I invite you to take one more slow breath of 5 inwards. Hold for 5. And then out through the mouth for 5. Thank you, everyone. And it's back to you, Grace.
Oh, gosh. That always brings me to such rest. How's that for everyone?
Yes.
Yes, it was really good. Yeah.
It really helps me. For me, it helps me to slow down. Life can be so crazy. Well, it is crazy. But yeah, really helps it to slow down. The fabulous Fiona has been staying with me the last couple of days, and the last 2 days that she's been here has just gone within a second, and here we are Sunday. So it's a great, really, really good time. You know, if you find that you need to catch your breath, that's another simple exercise to bring you to slowness, to stillness, and bring your heart and your mind into coherence, really bringing it to symmetry. And that's it's so important for us, particularly you know, our environment and what's happening in the collective. By the way, Fiona, we were looking at Stephen Greer yesterday. One article said he was dead. So for those who don't know, Stephen Greer, he's the UFO guy. He does the C5 meditation where you can tune into certain frequency and you can invite the ETs and work with you. So he's the guy that I think he pioneered it. And so anyway, one article said that he was dead. And then that afternoon, the article said that he was actually doing a webinar the same day that he was announced that he was dead. So apparently, the article said he died last month, wasn't it, Fiona?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, in the afternoon, someone sent me a link, said, no, he's doing a webinar today.
Oh, well, that's good that he's not dead then.
Yeah, okay. You just don't know who to believe in the media. Isn't it? Yeah, so much misinfo. That's right, Holly. You just don't know anymore. Believe only yourself. Yes. To believe that, you got to know who you are. Do you know who you are, Holly?
Best if I talk rather than try to type that out. It's actually quite interesting. Since the start of all this Verona kind of stuff, or during this Verona kind of stuff, I have got more in touch with that intuition and that feeling of centeredness, no matter what's flying around. Even I was just talking to Sammy about that yesterday. Like at the moment, studying a Foundations of Constitutional Government course. It's for 12 weeks with a professor of constitutional law, and even in wanting to study that, I'm not taking it as absolute truth or that he knows everything. I want to understand it as best I can, and then see whether from there, having more knowledge, whether it's the way to go forward or whether we can leave it behind or whatever. But, even with other info flying around, I think there's lots of sensationalism from both sides, whether it's the media or the sort of, I don't know what the media calls us, the truthers or whatever. But I find there's just so much sensationalism on both sides that even like I have a lot of people call me when they're sort of freaking out, because I can say, well, hang on a sec, what can you actually do about it right now? You know, and like what Warren was saying yesterday, like you don't just ignore it. You prepare for like worst possible case, but live in the fact that it won't happen. So then and I say fact because it's more of a centered feeling in a knowing that you'll be okay. No matter what, you will be okay. Yeah. So
yeah, because how do you bring in the power of now?
Yeah. It's only ever here and now. So. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. It's actually the first time I kind of talked to you, Holly.
Yeah, it is.
Get to say hello to you yesterday.
Yeah, it's always so social at rallies, but social at seminars and stuff. Yeah, it's good.
Sort of like, hi, wave to each other.
Yeah, I always miss these, so I made it a point to come along to it today.
Oh, it's wonderful. No, wonderful. It's just we've got some new faces and some that's been coming along as well. The reason why we segment the Sundays is because it can be very long. For some people, it's 3 hours. It's full on, and so we made it segmented so that if no one wants to turn up in this first hour, then they've got the next hour and then the next half an hour. So really, the choices are there for everyone to come along. So I know that some people don't come to this first session, but they come to the second session. And again, that's just part of being sovereign and having a choice. Because in the ways that we grew up in the church, to be honest, it used to drive me insane being in church for like 4 hours and singing and praising the songs for the first hour and a half, and it could go to 2 hours. That just like, no. And particularly at that time when I first came to the church, I came from nightclub. I'm a nightclub chick. and I was wild as anything. And then coming to the church, I'm like, what the hell is this? And and then I started dating the worship pastor. Out of all everybody, I was dating the worship pastor, and it's like, holy shit, I'm going to be so judged because coming from the world, didn't grow up in a Christian environment, and he's the worship pastor. He's supposed to be the holiest man in the whole congregation because he's leading, and he has the responsibility of taking the whole congregation into the holiest of holies of God. And then he's dating this girl that's been out in the world nightclubbing, and so
who's a witch?
Yeah. I don't look like a witch today, guys. I deliberately wore white jumper. I have
You
not.
look really good today. Really fresh and light.
Thank you. I have not been called a witch for years. I mean, I've been called all sorts of things. From Jezebel, you name it. Oh my gosh, my head's, and it's just one of those things.
I don't blame them, to be honest.
Oh, thanks, Edward. Why do you say that?
I just do.
Edward, that's so naughty.
Hey, Jasmine, there's no need for rescuing.
Actually, Jasmine was there. How crazy was that, Jasmine, hey?
Well, I was a bit sad she didn't call me a witch. I was like, what the hell? I need to up my game.
That's because you're blonde.
Yeah. I was like a bit jealous, to be honest. But anyway.
And then but it's just one of those things. We're walking in this narrow path, and it just reminded me when actually that incident happened. It was like the soft inner voice came in me and says, well, what was I called, Grace? You know, if we look at the biblical sense of Christ walking on this earth, he was called all sorts of things. He moved with the Beelzebub. You know, he got accused of moving with the devil himself, and he said, you know, how can a devil cast out a devil? It's just ridiculous. And it's a great lesson, and it's actually complementary. If we're walking on this narrow path, so someone calling you all sorts of things, take it as a compliment, actually, because you're walking on the great path, and it's a confirmation that you're on the right path. So even though my ego was going everywhere insane, and took me a while to calm down being after called that, but that's okay. It's actually a compliment, because it means you're heading on the right direction.
Actually, I said it. One thing I want to just comment on that yesterday with the drama triangle and stuff. I did mention it, but with our tech issues, it was fascinating to view that role play and how quickly the human ego took over. As soon as a third person came in, the energy of that discussion, and even though it was just a role play, it just amped up so quickly. And it was a really good thing to observe, because that then, I guess in our life, it shows where do we jump in really quickly, either to persecute more or to rescue, or just even to put your energy into something as a victim. Oh, yeah, I feel like that too. Like it was fascinating. I mean, Jasmine, you made it such a good persecutor as well.
Yes, you did.
Thank you, I think. It's true, I was being myself.
That's it. Own it though, right?
I'll own it.
But that's it. You've got to love all of yourself, though, even the bitchy part of it. But it was just fascinating though, how it was just like in an instant, right? The energy just changed, and I think it was when James stepped in as the rescuer. Then it was just all on, right? And that was like any sort of Facebook disagreement. That was like any sort of disagreement that we have. You know, in when things go south for us, you know, in any sort of conflict situation, it wasn't so. I didn't see it so noticeable. In the second one, although it was still there, maybe it was just Warren's tears that distracted me. But it was, but it was still there, right? That switch of energy of just everything all of a sudden being a quote unquote normal conversation to really ramping up into an emotional conflict thing. And so it was just really, you know, well done, guys. I was just watching it unfold, and it really struck me as how, you know, because role plays can be a lot of bullshit, right? But that struck me as how authentic it was from an energetic and emotional point of view, because you could really see, you could really feel that point where it went south, and the energy just ramped up.
Absolutely. And you can see, you can feel the energy of the persecutor. You can feel the arrow attacking you, can't you? And even Fiona, even though she smiled a little bit, but you can still feel the arrow going into Warren as being the victim. And you can feel the victim drawing all sorts of things to them. You know, just and if you can really tune into the energy in each character, it goes in and out, and it's just amazing. And imagine you doing it yourself. We constantly have that in ourselves, the dialogue internally, because we're all free at once.
Yeah, it was a really good reminder of how we do have to get out of that hamster wheel of that automatic, this is how I operate all the time, and go manual, and be able to observe what you are doing yourself. Because that's really hard to do, right? When you're in the heat of the moment, we just like that, we just go onto autopilot. But to really be able to go manual and change the gears and step back a bit and not dive in as you always would, because I understand we're trying to undo years or lifetimes of habits of been like my poem there, Victory or Death. I was the persecutor or the victim. I wasn't really the rescuer very often. It was one of those two things. And that's been my whole life. And it was really to really look at that and confront that. It was kind of shocking, and it was kind of hurtful. Just looking, gee whiz, that realization. Wow, that's been me. But in doing that, I've been able to love that part of me and accept that part of me. And as soon as you know, Grace, what you resist persists. So when you don't resist it, when you love it, the energy of it dissipates really, really quickly.
Yeah. I mean, I've been using the drama triangle since I was 26, actually. And and ever since been using it and practicing it, it's such a simple technique and profound. And we talk about being aware, being conscious. It's a great exercise, recognizing those three characters in you and where you're operating it, and when you shift from one to the other. And it just allows you to go inward and see how you function and see what's the condition you've been programmed. So it's and it's nothing too heavy. It's nothing too huge fireworks revelation. It's just, if we come back to simplicity, the simple things is the most powerful things and the most profound. So for those who watched it, the drama triangle, I really encourage you to really practice it and be aware what's in your mind, the dialogues you're creating yourself, the narrative you're creating in yourself, and where you sit in all those characters and how it all plays out in yourself. Yeah, just.
Can I just say something on that as well?
Of course. Yes, please.
I would actually go on camera, but I'm a bit embarrassed. Okay, so being a part of that role play was really good and the whole content yesterday really challenged me. I've been reflecting all night and this morning, because I feel like a really big part of it is also the expectation of other people of who they think that you are. So you've got this internal dialogue constantly going. And you've got that expectation of you as a rescuer. These people in your family know that you're their rescuer, so they come to you in that time of need. I had it happen to me this morning with one of my siblings. And instead of doing the rescuing, I kind of turned into a bit of a persecutor. And then I went back to a rescue, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like an absolute psychopath. My poor brother probably has no idea what I'm doing, because I was like kind of going in between them all. And I actually felt like I was in a role play. And what I realized this morning, even with what you said yesterday, Steve, about, you getting caught up on Facebook fights, I was hell persecuting the shit out of some people last night on Facebook. And I'm like, what am I doing? I'm just getting caught up again. So first of all, what I really learnt was to let go of the expectations that other people have of you, because in that I can release that, and then I can actually be true to myself and who I really am and where I'm really going. So I have to make some decisions, which I have this morning, like letting go of some of these apps on my phone, so I don't have access to that stupid world when I don't want to be there anymore. So I hope that makes sense for people, but it was a real challenge, because the expectations of others on us sometimes really lead us to be in that particular character. If that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. I think, Jasmine, thanks for sharing that, because that's a really good example of that three-step process of change, right? There's awareness, there's observation, and then there's actually change, right? So sometimes that can take months or years, but that part of your life, you've changed really quickly, because you got awareness of it yesterday, and then last night and this morning you went, oh, holy shit, I'm a psychopath. That doesn't make me feel good.
Yeah.
But yeah, you are, but so am I. Like, that's part of that human experience, right? We are all like that. And then when we are able to observe that in ourselves and accept that in ourselves, and then take the action steps, that's a beautiful example of that awareness, observation. Then it's like, holy shit. And then, okay, I'm going to make some changes here, right? That is the change process. So, wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, no, it was great. Thanks for letting me share, everyone. And thanks, Steve and Grace.
The other thing I would add to that, Steve, is participation. You know, participation is imperative, because if you don't participate, you sit on the sideline on the fence, you become lukewarm. There's nothing like being lukewarm. You get spit out, you get vomited out. So you're either hot or cold. And really what we're trying to set up here, guys, is that bring in the simplicity of this spiritual work. We don't need to go, you know, this magnificent, huge revelation thing. It's the simple things. So what we do here, I mean, we've experienced so many things, but again, that's just down the track. And what we'd like to do here in City Awakening is to really lay the foundation of the simple things and keep it simple. You know, that's what, keep it simple, stupid. I love the branding of whatever for the dummies. I'm actually thinking about starting spiritual for dummies. Right. So it's just really simple, getting back to their baby food, and that because we don't need it. You know, it gets complicated when you try to. I mean, goodness, all you have to do is turn on your YouTube and search for spiritual methods, modalities, and there's a huge labyrinth in it. You know, here, and you can cause yourself so much angst, and you can't do this, because they're so way ahead, and you start comparing with other people, and you start comparing yourself, and you put yourself in the pit, elevate others, or you elevate yourself, put others in the pit. And so what we like to really establish here is keeping it simple. So that drama triangle is just a real, there's nothing spiritual or woo-woo about it. It's actually very practical. Really, and if you want to bring it to the esoteric metaphysics, you can as well. That's the beauty about having that choice.
Yeah.
I was just going to say with watching things on YouTube, like if someone's so new to spiritual path and then they're just getting input but no ability to share, it's like they don't get the finite parts of it with the paradoxes and things, you know, like all the different teachings, even in the one will have paradoxes. And so I think if someone's just getting input but no ability to share, like in a group or on this kind of setting, then they don't, I feel like if they're new to it, they probably wouldn't get to that full understanding.
Well, like yesterday again, who's that? Edward, take control of the system, Edward. Like yesterday, it was fantastic. Someone actually sat next to me. Someone grabbed me and said to me, Edward.
I think Sharon needs to put hers on mute.
Yeah, let me see. It's hurting my ear.
I think Sharon, you just need to mute the volume on your iPad probably, since that's what you're using for your camera. And then if you have the sound from your laptop, whatever you're using.
Thanks, Sharon. My ear's a bit sensitive today, guys.
No, it's because Sharon is on 2 devices. So I think if you mute one of them, then that'll resolve it.
Okay. Fiona and I have been journeying the last 2 nights, and I've become more sensitive. My senses are really sensitive at the moment.
Did calling a wish contribute to that?
Probably. I'd say so. William just said to me, so Mum, where's your broomstick and your hat? I tell you what, have children. Children are great for your ego, I tell you.
You're a bitch and a witch.
Oh, yeah, that rhymes. I'm a bitch and a witch. Gosh,
Bitches, witches, ditches, or some old nursery rhyme or something like that.
I know, I get called bitch all the time. Warren calls me that all the time.
So spiritual.
But that's all right.
Yeah, snitch now.
Okay.
We can't mute. Edward, can you mute? Okay. Yeah, saying yesterday, there's a difference in having critique. Like someone grabbed me yesterday, and he said to me, so far it's very what you presented today has been simple, and I've actually been looking at everything that you guys are doing, and I've been checking your webinars and all that, and I'm still criticizing you guys, or analyzing what you guys are doing, and you probably won't like me because I'm segmenting everything, I'm looking at everything, I'm turning all the rocks what you guys are about. And I said to him, I really appreciate what you're saying, because what that tells me it's going to be difficult to deceive you. So all I would do is I'll encourage you to actually don't believe what Warren says, what I say, what Steve says. All our presenters don't believe what anyone says. So I'd encourage you to continue to critique what we do, because it's a great way to not be deceived. And I myself I do that. I analyze and I have a look and test and discern, because how else do we know how to discern? And I said to him, now the difference though is I pick up from your heart. You actually come from a really loving, genuine place, and I love it. And you can do that anytime. Come to me. I love it. I love, if you don't like something, come tell me, because then perhaps we could work together how we can improve things. And so to me, I welcome that. When I don't welcome things is you deliberately come to divide. You deliberately, you're a divisive heart, and you come here with an intent to conquer and to divide the whole lot. So that's when I get narky. And so I said to him, I don't believe that. I pick up you don't come from that place. So I say to you, I welcome your critique. Just bring it on. And so obviously you've been coming along to all the webinars, and you still continue to come. And he goes, well, yeah, I cannot find fault with you guys. I can see the critique, everything that you guys do, what you say, you practice. And I'm like, oh, that's lovely. Thank you so much. So he said, whatever you guys actually say, you actually do. Like your children, not being vaccinated. And then the biggest thing he said to me is, you and Warren are still working together after separation, after divorce and all that. And I said, well, why wouldn't we? At the end of the day, it's all labels, whether you're in a relationship, marriage, they're all labels. In heaven, there is no marriage. And any relationships, anything like that, we're all one. So yes.
It might be good, Grace, that he hasn't seen you two going at each other. He might have had a different view of that.
Actually, Warren and I were enforced yesterday. That's why we have to give a medal to Travis. Travis deserves a medal, because we were like, what the effing Travis? What the hell is going on? So there's me on one side, there's Warren on the other side, and we were at him. It's like, oh, I just cringe up, poor guy. And then I'm persecuting Jasmine, Edward, James, like, what the hell's going on here, guys? Well, take a chill pill, guys. Let's come back into centeredness. And actually, there's a force that's happening here. So so Warren and I just left the room and like, okay, let's deal with these forces and get on with it.
It's really interesting. I was like, it was almost, to me, it was like there were some dark forces somewhere that didn't want the day to go ahead, and that's why all these gremlins were in the system, right? There was just something trying to block and stop and delay and frustrate, and even from the point of view of listeners, to get them so pissed off that they left, right? It seemed like this multi-level kind of attack. It was really, really bizarre.
Yeah. No, it was just. Yeah, it was just, but it just all played out, and we were, at the end of it, we're okay with it, because at the end, this work has got nothing to do with any one of us. It's to do with Source. The universe will play perfectly as it is, and we do our part, whatever that means for all of us. So everything has its perfect place, and everything will come into what needs to be done. So again, do nothing. and it will be done for you.
Yeah, Travis wasn't saying that yesterday, though, right?
I know, jumping up and down.
Actually, interesting too, Grace, just to comment on Mr. Analysis, who spoke to you yesterday. Like, as someone who has spent all of his life with a really strong mind, analysing all things and looking for danger signs, and you know, I do hope that he gets out of that urgent headspace where he's looking for the rat and gets into his heart space and comes from him, or because that will serve him the way it serves all of us a lot better than our fearful, urgent, analytical mind. Really easy to say, really hard to get out of, though, speaking from experience.
Yeah, actually, I gave it to him. I actually complimented and honoured him because he recognised that. He said, I'm so much in my head, it's so difficult for me to go in my heart. His wife, on the other hand, is too much in the heart and he's too much in the mind. And so that he said, that's why I'm here. I'm seeking to find a balance for me and to move more in my heart. No matter what I do, I can't seem to reach it. And so I just said to him, well, you're doing it now. By you just sharing you're doing right now is you're touching it. And he goes, oh, really? It's like,
yeah. There's obviously a softening there, right? There was something for him to come up and say that there was a softening of him rather than him just saying nothing and going home, analysing everything again, going over in his mind ticking over. You know, I should have said this. I'm not going to do it. They did this. They said that. You know, that's how, when we're in our heads so much, that's how it works. So, yeah, that is a nice softening for him.
Yeah. Sharon asked about the twin souls. Well, whether you believe twin souls or not, this is my take. This is how it resonates for me. So you got to take your own take. So what resonates for me, twin souls, at the end of it, if we are all one, and there's nothing missing in us, and because twin souls is about looking for your perfect partner, and so if you're not, because you're not complete. So if you're not complete, so this is my take. If I'm not complete, then I'll always be seeking that other.
I'm not seeking it, but you know, my situation's been under attack for years, and they use the concept of twin souls to get you hooked in.
Exactly. So that's why you've got to look within yourself. To me, twins, I don't have a twin soul.
That's what I've been saying in part of it.
Except for me.
He says.
No, you're Steve's twin soul, Warren. You and Steve are twins.
No, Steve is my soulmate. You are my twin flame. Okay?
So seriously, do you believe in that as an eternal partner that is with you through every evolution and through every plane of existence? Because my mind is starting to think maybe you have like a conscious twin in a certain plane of existence. You have a love twin. I'm not sure. That might be because of my experience and I've been attacked so badly. But I'm not quite sure if you have I know you have to be yourself in part of this sort of Luciferian or whatever you want to call it thing that's been going on with me. I have stood firm to my ground. I am going to be complete and whole me and know everything about me, and you will not come into my soul or my spirit field. And if you want to meet me, you meet me at the same level on the outside of me, and we'll be a meeting of souls, and that is beautiful, a meeting of souls, and anything that comes from that is measured upon love, right? But I am confused because I'm not sure there is just one enduring form.
Well, one, you're continually going on, so that's going to confuse you even more. So remember what Warren taught yesterday. When you get asked a question, keep it simple with one word, yes, no, perhaps.
Do I believe in twin? Sorry, what was the question?
Well, right now, your narrative is continually, can you feel the wheel in your mind right now?
Because... Yeah, I've been trying. I was told by a higher spirit. So
let's just stop. You're asking me a question about twin souls.
Okay.
Now you're continually going on about your narrative about it.
I always do that. I've got to get to the point. I know that.
Let's put a break. let's put a break, because we can be here forever. Okay?
Yeah, I know.
Let's put a break. So my thing about twin souls is, yes, remember, we are multiverse character. We've got soul, higher self, and all that. So in my egoic state, yes, there is a twin soul for me in my ego state, because I'm in this flesh.
So
I'm duality, yes. But in my higher self, no, there is no twin soul, because we are one. It's a universal oneness. But in my ego, yes, there is a twin soul, and this ego still is looking for it. So there's that battle in my thing about having the twin souls, but it's all an illusion in my higher self. But that's my discovery and where I'm at with the twin soul. Because if you imagine you're caught up in that twin soul, it's going to add confusion into yourself. So you've got to ask yourself, is this giving me life? Is this giving me confusion? Is this taking me off my my path? Is it distracting me? All that stuff. So you just got to be able to break it down.
Well, I guess what I was looking for is another feminine to confirm what I really think. And that's exactly what I think, that it's like operating partners in certain planes of existence, but at the higher conscious, we're all one. Thank you.
Isn't it a great hook? Is it a great hook that, hey, Sharon, you've got a twin soul? You know,
exactly.
How much distraction is that for yourself?
Massive, yeah. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Warren, you got the stage. He's just
speaking of twin souls, Warren, over to you. if only we weren't a continent away, Warren, we could have a man hug.
We could maybe go deeper, Steve.
You always take it up a notch, don't you? Eh?
You're dealing with a psychopath, my friend.
Yeah.
As always, people used to try and trash talk me. I said, you're trying to trash talk someone who'll go as low in the gutter and as deep into the shithole as he has to win. So I'm a very difficult person to successfully trash talk. That's great.
Just no tears, all right?
All right.
And he really does cry like that, Steve.
I think I've just broken our twin soul contract, Grace.
Never. It's never going to happen.
Well, it was interesting. As usual, you're bringing up stuff I just have to tell you that synchronizes with what I'm going to share about today. And what I was going to share about today is exactly the message I've been getting, which is more about, very much about the whole about spiritual warfare and what that really is. And I mean, I'm sure everyone agrees here that right now we're in a major spiritual war. Who would agree with that? Yeah, we're in a war of our life. Mm-hmm. Like, we're in a war like you never probably thought you would be in. And when wars come to your shore, nobody really likes to get involved in war. Like, if the Japanese and the physical turned up tomorrow on Australia's shore or over in America's shore or in New Zealand's shore, it's fair to say that you wouldn't want that to happen, but who here would get out there, step up and start to fight if they had to? I'm sure most of you would. Yeah.
Yeah, with my pots and pans.
Yeah, whether you like it or not, we're in a war, okay? So Nadine says she's ready. Sashi's ready. Mish, Famita, awesome. So right now we're in a war. And when you and the easiest thing to do in a war is not to live in denial, not to let the love and light. I personally believe one of the greatest deceptions of the enemy that's been brought in what's going on right now in this time is to trick people into saying there is no war. Everything is just love and light. Everything is just beautiful. Everything is just sweet. And I'm sure there's a group of people giggling away going like, are these people stupid or what? You know, like, are these people really stupid? And the other one's going, yep. I personally have this belief, and I'm not just saying this, but there's a roulette wheel where they spin it and they make bets as to what stupid laws can be done, what can be brought in, and what they can get away with, you know? So, you know, we're living in a time of war like we never would have imagined in our lifetime, but whether we like it or not, we're in that war. So what I might just get everyone to do now is shut their cameras off, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put my screen up, okay? So if everyone could just maybe close off your camera, and we will get the screen up. Okay, so let's just get the... Okay. So what we've got here. So this is actually what I was given to do. I was actually going to do a different topic, and I got a really clear download to do this, like do spiritual warfare. And I had a completely different topic planned for the day, because what I was told was you're in a war, the war's heated up. And yesterday what happened, as Grace was saying, yep, that was like, wow. In fact, it was so intense. That was kind of why for a while I was just thinking, like, surely this isn't what I think it is. And I must admit, that's why it's good when you've got a team, and why I had Grace there, because Grace goes, have you realised what's going on? I thought, oh, shit, you're right. So I said, let's get out and clear it. So she went out, we tuned in, and then I dealt with it and removed it. The thing is, what I will say to encourage everyone, though, okay, what happened shows we were actually making inroads. You don't get seriously attacked unless you're making inroads. So when we've engaged in spiritual warfare previously, you don't get attacked unless you're making inroads, okay? So it's when you're not making inroads, they kind of leave you alone because they don't really want to play their hand. That's one of the things about the dark forces. I felt it this week, and so did Grace. I said, we've broken through. I said, we've broken something. I know we have. And I felt it last week in the clearing. And those of you who was here on that Sunday night clearing, and you felt you felt that we got attacked and we went through something. Just type it if you were actually here and you felt that on Sunday night. You know, we actually broke through something, and I knew we had. And ever since then, I've had people saying to me, without knowing what we did, you know, the astral realms are so much clearer. I don't quite know why. I've noticed my sleep has been really peaceful. The astral realms have been really quiet. Your Steve was smashed the next day. On Wednesday night, I felt we went even further, and I actually felt we penetrated the strong man's lair. And I'll be teaching and explaining what I mean by the strong man as we go into this one. So, because in the scriptures, you've got the dark lords and you've got the heads. And I feel now we're starting to hit and cause some problems. And yesterday, of course, there's no question now. I could feel the difference in that seminar. I don't know about who was there, but I could feel people were getting what I was saying. And I've taught this stuff in times past, not quite as in depth as there, and people didn't really get it, but people were getting it yesterday. I felt that everyone who was there was getting it. Who was there yesterday and you already feel clearer in your mind and you feel more than ready now for a fight? You know, you're more than ready to go to the next level. Just type a one. Yeah, Mish, Holly, Dean, Tanya, Jasmine, yeah. So once you start to break through, and there's so many deceptions and tricks that are designed. See, to win a war, you have to do that. You have to trick, you have to deceive, you have to swindle, you have to do that kind of stuff, everything like that. So what we'll do to start off with, you know, taking up the whole armor of God, but you may be able to withstand in the evil day and having done all else to stand anyway. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, the authorities, the powers of this dark world, and the spiritual forces of evil in this heavenly realms. That's the thing. And I'm so glad that so many people are coming keen to learn about this now. And honestly, one of the biggest things that discouraged me was not the government. I'll actually share this with you all. I've never really been that fussed about the government myself, because I know they're only in the physical operating under spiritual authority from the dark lords and the spirit guides that they deal with. My biggest frustration more and where I got completely discouraged was people just didn't seem to really want to hear that or believe that, and were so overtaken by the mind control and the shit that I could see that was being planted on people's minds and like put into a sleep. Dudley Daniel, a prophet 30 years ago when he moved to Australia from South Africa to plant a church, and he was given a message to do it, he saw a vision of 4 massive dark demon spirits over the country as he was coming in here. And he asked, and he said, what are these spirits? You know, what are these, you know? And he felt the Holy Spirit say to him, there's 4 spirits that rule over Australia. This was from a South African who was coming in here. He said, they're apathy, rejection, rebellion, and poverty. These false spirits rule this country, and until these spirit lords get taken out, this country is going to not go anywhere. Basically, it's going to lose its freedom completely. So apathy, like in other words, she'll be right, man. It's going to be okay. He said the only way you got to take up those spiritual lords, and you got to bring in the opposite energy. So in other words, apathy needs to be replaced by zeal and action. Rejection needs to be replaced by self-love and by love of God and feeling that connection with the divine. Poverty needs to be replaced with a spirit of abundance and generous giving. And rebellion needs to be replaced with a spirit of submission and honour of authority. I can't think of a country where we're more lawless than Australia, just about. We are the most lawless people. It's like, I can be what I want. I can do what I want. I don't have to do this with God. I don't have to do any of this kind of stuff. And I believe that's personally out of four of them, the biggest one is the spirit of rebellion. And that comes back to the convicts era, because ancestral patterns carry through a country. And, you know, people just do what they want. When I had my experience at the Council of Nine 3 years ago, which a lot of you know about, where my life changed forever, that was what they told me. They said, you have a group of lawless people and they're heading for destruction and for consequences. He said, you've got to teach people to live by divine order and get people into submission. People dishonour their spiritual teachers like you wouldn't believe. People dishonour their government and speak so badly about it, it blows my mind. I mean, it doesn't surprise me that we're living with such an awful government now, because we've spoken it into fucking existence, excuse the French. I mean, honestly, we're a bunch of absolute, you know, the behaviour of what's been going on in this country has been deplorable, you know, and we still sit down and blame everything outside of ourselves. So thank God there's people now, like all of you here and those there yesterday, who are willing to actually go, right, okay, let's go to war. Yes, let's deal with the stuff that's going on. And as that V for Vendetta movie said, there are some who are more accountable than others. But if you want to know why we're in this mess, look back into the mirror and stare closely, really closely. And then you will see in front of that mirror the very face of the reason that it is all happening. And that goes for all of us. And that's how we're going to win this war. I expect to win this. I don't have the slightest fucking doubt we'll win this. I don't know how long it's going to take. I don't know what it's going to cost. I have an idea, but I can't say them fully. But it's it's either win this war or lose and be slaves for good. That's all for pretty much a very long time. That's where this is heading. And I think it's fair to say that, and I think we all know this. So who would like to start with a prayer of Yeshua to really create the energy? Someone. Who would like to start with this?
Yeah, Warren, I'd like to do it today, if I could, please.
Awesome, Christine. Love you too.
O thou from whom the breath of life comes, who fills all realms of sound, light and vibration, may your light be experienced in my utmost holiest. Your heavenly domain approaches. Let your will come true in the universe, all that vibrates, just as on earth that is material and dense. Give us wisdom, understanding, assistance and discernment for our daily need. And detach the fetters of faults and karma that bind us as we let go of the guilt of others. Let us not be lost in superficial things like materialism and common temptations, but let us be freed from all of those things which keep us off from our true purpose. From you comes the all-working will, the lovely strength to act, the song that beautifies all and renews itself from age to age. Sealed in trust, faith and truth, and I confirm with my entire being. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Christine.
Amen.
Okay, so one of the things too with City Awakening meetings, that's why one of the things that's going to start happening more and more now is just as I've been asking Grace and Steve and William to start speaking more. So generally you're getting a different balanced diet here. And the beauty is you find who you really are and live it. Like, as many of you know, I am a full-on feral kind of warrior. That's just who I am, you know? And as Grace was once told me, she said, or someone's told me, you basically go and you put a nuclear bomb in everyone and blow their minds up, and they just sit there like completely like in shock. Grace comes in and integrates it all, and then others come in like Steve and William, and they nurture people and bring the healing and bring the restoration and the growth. Who thinks Who feels like sometimes when I speak, you feel like a nuclear bomb for the next 2 days? I know Steve does. Who at times feels like, yep, you certainly feel like you've just been given an absolute whack. Famita does. Sheldon, it's actually Christine, yeah. Christine, in fact, used to say, I'm so grateful for grace. She said, sometimes I feel like I've been hit by a bomb when I'm around you. That's Nadine, that's why we love you. Yeah, some of you stronger ones probably love it. You actually feel like, yeah, this is good, you know. A few of you similar fellow psychos. So Holly loves it. Yeah, well, you're not a psycho, Holly. So that's why you love it. Okay, so yeah, fellow psycho, yeah. Miko loves it. Yeah, well, you're not a psycho, Miko. So there you go. Okay, today's word. After saying all that, this is the first message I was given. Is do nothing and everything will be done for you, which we've been saying it. And another way of putting it is 2 Chronicles, when Jehoshaphat was going up against an impossible army. And he was scared shitless. He was the ruler of a small army of people, and he was going against an impossible odds. And he basically was like, what am I going to do? The great thing about the old ancient kings is when they were going into battles, they knew that they were outmatched. They wouldn't run in willingly and flippantly. They would humble themselves and they would get before God and say, I need help. Many of you may not know this, but George Washington with the American Revolution was well known for that. He was a man who would cry many tears, who every day before he went out to fight was on his knees at 4 a.m. till 7. I mean, who didn't know that out of interest? But every morning he was out away from his troops praying, and his diaries show that, and seeking direction. Got many visions. His diaries are an amazing read when you actually read them. And he would be shown numerous times when they were about to be ambushed, he would be given strategy. And he basically won because he was led the whole way, led by God in his time of prayer. Many of the great kings of times past, they won impossible battles because they knew who they were working with. One of my favourite stories and graces is in the book of Judges, the story of Gideon. And some of you may have heard of Gideon and his army of 300, a man who basically had 300 against an impossible army but had enslaved the people for 20 years and done all the stuff that the current government's doing. And Gideon, in fact, originally had 10,000 and he was told to cull his people down to 300. And he said, don't choose anyone who's not serious about this battle. Out of interest, who knows the story of Gideon? Out of interest. Like, who here has heard about Gideon? Hopefully there's one or two. Okay, so I better share about it then. So Gideon, if you read about it in the Bible, he was just a very normal guy. And in fact, yeah, the movie about the 300, yeah, that was based on the true story of Gideon. And Gideon was basically just a very normal guy, and there was a group of people who'd taken over his country. So this is why I said there's nothing new about conquest. You know, this has been going on for a long time. And Gideon basically, in fact, he was so scared of them, he just worked in a wine press in his job and kept away from everything. And he had a direct visit from God, from an angel who told him, "Rise, mighty warrior, and stand up, for you've been given the task to lead this people." And Gideon, and generally God always chooses like basically numb bunnies to basically lead. That's what generally happens. In fact, King David, when it says he won his impossible war, it said the people that came to him were people in debt, who were distressed and discontented. So who were in debt, who were distressed, and who were discontented. So he was in debt, he was in distress, and he was discontented. And so, and so some of you could probably relate to that. But David was a great king. He was a deep feeling man. He wrote the Psalms. He was a musician. He was a singer. He was a man who used to dance basically half naked and do crazy stuff when you'd read about him. And yet today we hear stories about David against Goliath. And yet what you don't know is David was also a man who wept many tears. When you read the Psalms, he'd weep tears. He would bawl his eyes out. he would say, God, I have no chance. How can I win this battle? I am in so much trouble. My enemy surrounds me on every side, you know. And I so related to the Psalms when I went through my dark night of the soul in the 1990s, late 1990s and 2000s. And I would just read these over and over where it was saying, you know, God, my enemy surrounds me on all sides. So Gideon and David were both men. You know, Gideon and David were both men who really knew their brokenness. They knew their weakness. They knew who they were, but they knew that in God they were strong. I remember my uncle made an extraordinary statement. My uncle, a very psychic guy, you know, a powerful man, probably the greatest man I've ever met in my life. If you ask me who's the person that you admire more than anyone else you ever met in your life, was my uncle. And my uncle was like my rich dad, like Maria Kiyosaki. And my uncle said to my mum when I was a baby, they said, if this boy commits his life to serving God and doing the higher work, you watch, this guy will go a long, long way. He will do big things. But if he doesn't, his life will go nowhere. This guy is going to be neither hot or cold. He'll either end up screwing his life up or he'll do great things. And I've never forgotten those words, because really for quite a long time I did screw my life up. And Gideon, basically, his life was a screw up. And Abraham Lincoln, when you read, until 54, Abraham Lincoln was a screw up. He literally had 9 failed attempts to get into government. He had 2 rejected marriage proposals. He had numerous failures in just about everything, and he was financially broke. I'm sure most of you don't know this. But Lincoln never lost connection with his dream and the belief that he was called for that time. And he, of course, became probably one of the greatest presidents that ever walked America. And, you know, Gideon, a man who really, if you read Judges, doubted himself so much. In fact, he doubted himself so much that after being visited by an angel, he didn't really believe. And the angel had to give him a sign. And even then, he still was scared. And the angel then said to him, go and do this, I'll give you another sign. And he gave him another sign. But then he still didn't believe, and he had to be given another sign. And I'm sure some of you could be relating to this. And finally, he goes, okay, now I believe. And when he first took the army, he had 10,000 people. And then what he was told to say was, tell anyone who's afraid they can go home now. And he did. And straight away, a whole lot of people left instantly. And then the remaining group, he was told, get them to drink from the water, but only those who stay alert and aware while they're drinking their water keep on. And most of them just were drinking the water. Only 300 of them were drinking and staying alert and aware. So because of that, they got to stay. Even then, Gideon's now thinking, great, now I've got 300 people to go against an impossible army. And then what happened was, as he was lying there, he got woken up again by an angel and told, go and listen, to go and sneak over and listen. And he listened to a tent where there's people talking, and these people were talking about how Gideon had been raised up to lead the army. And Gideon, as soon as he heard that, went forward with faith. And as he went forward with faith, at the same time, there were spiritual forces disrupting the enemies. The enemies are getting all confused and all over the place and started killing each other. And they all turned on each other. And next minute, Gideon came in and basically started to rout them. And then all the others of his people, the remaining people who'd been all hiding, saw what was happening, got excited, came in, and then cleaned them up and finished the battle. And you can read a similar story from what happened with Gideon in the story of Judges with Barak and Deborah as well. And I mean, I could just about spend a whole day teaching on this kind of stuff. But the point I'm saying is that in warfare, it doesn't matter about the numbers. It matters about knowing that that this is what we're in, and knowing who we are, and knowing why we're here. And it's when we know that God is with us, the higher forces, the higher power, then we know that who can be against us. There's a scripture that says, if God is for us, who can be against us? So we're living in my opinion, possibly some of the most exciting days I ever imagined. You know, stuff that I was shown years ago would happen. So yes, we're in spiritual war, but believe you me, how exciting this actually is. I was saying to Edward today, we'll never get a better opportunity in our life than we've got right now, than to take dominion and to see an awakening happening in our country and to break things up. And we've got to strike while the iron's hot. I said the politicians and what they're doing is so ridiculous. They're giving an open door. they've diverted from their plan. They've diverted from the very cleverly orchestrated plan to slowly boil the frog in water, to basically trying to rush everything through. So I just said, it's time. I said, we'll never get a better opportunity. And I said, and it's time to basically move and do this. So I really felt to go more into that sort of stuff and just share a little bit more about warfare today and what I mean by warfare, but most importantly, how to protect yourself. Because as Steve said, as you start to step up into spiritual warfare, believe you me, you are facing dark forces that you cannot underestimate. And some of you I know probably heard of Alberto Villoldo, who's a shaman in the Amazons. And Villoldo actually says, never, ever, ever diminish the powers of black magic and the powers of the dark. He said, you can't take control of a world and do the shit you're going on unless you are very, very powerful and you know what you're doing. And yes, the light has more power, but if the light is deluded and if the light is deceived and if the light is living in this la-la land, no. You will be shat all over, you'll be pissed on, and you will sit there in absolute stun wondering what on earth just happened to your health, your finances, and your life, okay? So this is kind of like the wake-up call to say, whether you like it or not, you're in a war. But then number two, if you don't go to war in a way that's wise, you're going to get your ass kicked. But the thing is, if you don't go to war, you're going to get your ass kicked anyway down the track. It'll be much worse than it is now. So in other words, this is a season, the exciting news is where you got to be comfortable paying a price and getting your ass kicked a little bit while you learn to fight this battle and start to win the war. Who's ready to get their ass kicked a little bit but to grow? Anyone? Or you all prefer to run away and hide? Whoa, yeah, this is good. Okay, it's actually used to it. This is why people who are in debt, distressed, discontented, and you've been messed around a bit, you've gone through a lot of pain and suffering, and you're just like, fuck it. Hey, what's another whack? Emily got my ass kicked yesterday by a big police. Yep. So you go, yep, I'm getting my ass kicked anyway, so I may as well learn to do this properly and start winning. That's where I'm at with this now. And remember, you have all the Lord is asking, all the ultimate, the God, however we see in the form we understand God says to us is, all I want you to be is be willing, obedient, and ready. That's it. Just willing, obedient, and ready. You do that, and I will guide you. I will take the battle for you. My forces will work with you. And when you do my work, when you submit, surrender your will, and give your heart, your life, your soul, your very being to my work, you know? And this is not saying give your life to religion and go and wear a cloak and go and cut your hair off or do something dumb like that. This is a feeling thing. This is giving your heart, your life, your soul to say, I'm here to do my work. I'm here to serve. I'm here to fucking kick some ass here. At least make a decent enough difference that when I finish my time on earth, that I'll be in the next realm and the life beyond lives and being told, you did really well. You did your job. You did your job. You did your path. Well done, my good, faithful servant. The next stage of evolution now awaits you. Rather than saying, sorry, buddy, you kind of ran around the mountain and ran around the bush and you were cow and chicken. Guess what? You're going back in. And you're back in. And I think many of us certainly don't want to be backed into this place, okay? Who's kind of more than ready to kind of get yourself out of here and do whatever lesson you're meant to learn here and go to the next stage of evolution? Yeah, the sound effects. Yep. So, yep. As I once told someone, I said, taking a very practical job, let's just say you're a bunch of light beings living in a very harmonious, orderly realm. Do they really want idiots like us coming in here if we're living like idiots? No, they don't. Last thing they want, of course they won't want us in. I mean, that's just the dumbest thing you could ever imagine. So hence that's why it's about being worthy to prove that we're worthy of the next stage of evolution. It's like you don't win a video game by crying. You win it by playing it and playing it and playing it until you win it. That's why I love playing video games. And I play to win. That's why I play sport to win, you know. And likewise, this is a game and a war we're playing to win, you know. And I like the fact it's a hard battle. It makes it more fun and it's going to make it better, the fact that this is a really hard battle. It also means, a bit like I shared yesterday, a dream isn't truly the dream of God unless it's greater than your capabilities, okay? So if you have a purpose, that's just something you could do anyway. That's not a God-given purpose. That's just something that you're just good at doing and you like doing. A God-given purpose is a dream that goes so far beyond your capabilities. You're going like, I have no idea how I'm going to do this, but I surrender myself. God, lead me. That's one of the reasons why I love, that's one of the reasons I love the work I'm doing, because I know this is way beyond me. And people who know me from when I'm younger know that by nature, I was like Gideon. I needed so many signs. I mean, you asked Grace, she's ready to shoot me. Because she'd been shown my path. And over and over again, I would keep doubting myself and keep questioning it, thinking, can I do this? Can I do this? She goes, oh, for fuck's sake, what do you have to see to do this? So I had to be shown about 20 signs, not just 3 signs like Gideon. I was much dumber than him. So I love the fact that this war, the dream to see this war win and see Australia awaken, it's crazy. There's no way I could do this. There's no way any of us could do this. I mean, the takeover of the country that's happened in Australia, New Zealand, America, it's just a worldwide takeover. It's been brilliantly done. It's an impossible war to win. And that's why I'm like, great. This is going to make it a little bit more fun. One of the things I love here is about faith. In Hebrews, it says, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Notice that, and Jesus once said, if you can see it, it's not faith, okay? If you can see that right in front of you right now, that things are really good in your family, that's not faith. That's just saying, yeah, things are good in my family. If your family's an absolute mess, if your life is just financially in a mess, and you still are saying, I know that I'm prosperous and abundant, I know there's something in my life, I know, and I just know it's still coming in the physical, and you can say it with conviction, not just a love and light leafy statement, that's faith. Faith is when you're really sick and you just say, you know what, I know, but by the grace of God, I'm healed, and I expect that. Faith is when you see the country in an absolute mess and you say, I don't see that mess. I see this country in a whole different state. I see that we won this fucking war. Now I've just got to go out and make it happen in the real world. In fact, faith is so remarkable. It says Enoch was translated, but he did not even see death. So great was Enoch's faith, he didn't even see death. In other words, his body translated into light. He never tasted physical death. And in the mystery schools, they teach about those. That's been like why that's been, and those who know me personally know that's been my mission since I was young, to walk that path where Enoch had said was translated. He did not see death. He moved into a light body without even physically having to die. And in fact, if you really want to know what faith really is, it says without faith, it is impossible to please God. If you live in doubts, then I can tell you one thing, you will not connect with the higher realms. You won't. I mean, you will switch off and disconnect. One of my favourite scripture in Williams, I know, but we often talk about, is it says by faith, and this is a good one for us right now with what's going on in Australia and in New Zealand and in America and Canada. By faith, Abraham, when he was called to go out into a place which he should after receive for an inheritance, obeyed, and he went out not even knowing where he was going. So he was called, and when you read Genesis 12, it says God spoke to him in whatever form God happened to speak to him and said, go out to this land that I'm leading you to. And Abraham's like, well, what does that mean in practical terms? Like, he goes, just go. And he goes, well, like, how do I do it? Just go. Just go out, not knowing why you're going. By faith, he sojourned in the land of promise. In other words, he lived there in a strange country, somewhere that wasn't even familiar to him, somewhere he never even grew up in. But you know why? It says, for he looked for a city which has foundations, whose builder and maker is God. That's, like I said, probably one of my favourite scriptures. In other words, he wasn't looking in the physical. He wasn't looking in the 3D. He was looking for something much higher, something that was beyond his comprehension, something that he knew he could never do in the physical. And that's what we're called to be doing here right now, to take our countries and take this civilization into a level which you cannot even conceive right now in the current way that it is. And we're not just going to experience a fifth dimensional awakening by sitting back and awakening. It's going to happen because people are going to say, I don't know how it's happening, but I know it is happening, and I know that I am the facilitator, but I am. Isn't that a powerful scripture? I'm sure some of you got touched by that. Very powerful. When you realize that, that's what we're here. Build something greater than our own cause and greater than anything we could ever do in our own strength. So today, let's learn a bit about engaging in warfare and what it really means when we say spiritual warfare. Because that's a big thing to say, and can be a very loose one. So I'm going to just cover it in 3 parts. We are at war, how to engage at warfare, and how to protect yourself in the midst of warfare, okay? 3 very important things, because if you don't know how to protect yourself, and some of you will be familiar with some of the stuff from what you seen us do in our clearings. So whether we like it or not, we're spiritual beings choosing a human experience to live a life of duality. Who here questions the wisdom of their choice sometimes? It's choosing. We are spiritual beings who are choosing a human experience to live a life of duality. And no doubt some of you probably shake your head and think, I'm not quite sure why I chose that. But yeah, Famita, someone tricked me. Yeah, probably Famita. I think I tricked you and told you that you were coming here to, have a bit of fun with me. So in duality, there is right and there's wrong. There's light and dark, good and evil. I had a lot of challenges myself in reconciling the fact, but on the one hand, I was a spiritual being and I was beyond right and wrong. I was beyond good and evil. I was beyond light and dark, and all of it was just an illusion. But at the same time thinking, but what does that actually mean when you see people doing pedophilia, and when you see people raping people, and when you see people stealing, and when you see governments doing the shit they're doing? I had a real conflict. Can anyone relate to me? Like, that's been something you struggled with, or even now you find at times difficult to get that balance? And yeah, a few of you have, and I'm glad I'm not the only one. I had years and years of really grappling with that one, because on the one hand, I'd think, well, the reality is this. So I was tending to vacillate between the two very much, like a pendulum, until I started to understand how the spiritual realms worked a lot better. And then I started to realize that, so once you start to go to the universe beyond our universe, which is basically, beyond light and dark, then yes, like Byron Katie's work, which Holly mentioned, seeing it all the same, yeah, correct. So that's what's called higher universal stuff. That's when you start to tap into energy from much higher frequencies and much higher universes, that kind of stuff, and much, much higher dimensions. But when we're in this 3D living it, there is right and wrong, and we have to play the game. And when I saw it that way, it made perfect sense to me. You learn to play the game. And a really good story that I heard, a true story, was the story of Krishna and King Arjuna with the religious war for India's freedom. When Krishna came to India, it was in a time of great spiritual darkness, as I mentioned. That tends to happen. And Krishna, although he was a great shaman, he was actually working, in the background. People didn't know a lot about him at the time. And he worked with King Arjuna. He was his chariot driver and tended to work side by side with him. And King Arjuna was going out because what was happening was India was awakening through Krishna's teaching and through new religion. So, of course, dark forces were coming to try and take over India and whip them into shape. And so King Arjuna got his armies and went out to go to war with Krishna as his chariot driver. And as they got there, and Arjuna saw the armies and saw his armies, he shook his head and turned to Krishna and he goes, why are we even doing this? He says, this is like not light and dark, this is like not good and evil. He goes, this is just insane. He goes, why are we all killing each other? Why is everyone killing us? Why are we killing everyone? Why? He said, I'm just going to renounce my kingship and I'm going to go live in the jungle and devote myself to God for the rest of my days. And he said, it's not my path to deal with this. Hang on, there's just noise everywhere. So to doubt myself. Now, it sounds a really good, beautiful statement. Krishna just laughed and turned to King Arjuna and says to him, King, you're basically being a coward and dressing it up in love and light. I mean, I am, of course, doing my own little, that's what he said. King, you're just basically dressing it all up in love and light. He goes, you're being a coward. He goes, this war is going to take place with or without you. He said, all that's going to happen if you don't do this war is, he said, India is going to be taken over for a time. Eventually this war will happen again. People will die anyway. So he said, stop being a coward and go out and do your duty and kill these motherfuckers. And he says to him, because he said, whether you like it or not, he said, these people are arresting the way of religious war and religious progress. So he said, get out there, kill all those motherfuckers, leave none of them alive. And he said, just keep in mind, but right now we're living in bodies and in souls, but basically tainted. He said they can be reborn, and they can be reborn to a better model and hopefully into better people to learn their lessons. Now, as you can see, I'm obviously embellishing what he said, Tanya, but if you actually read the story, you'll find out pretty much what I'm saying is exactly what Krishna said, okay? I'm just using it in language that you can all relate to. So that's basically what he said. So King Arjuna went out and killed the motherfuckers. So when people actually ask me my real views on what's going on, I'm saying like, well, and people say, oh, these people are taking the vaccine. I'm like, well, maybe they're meant to die. That's what I say. Maybe they're meant to die. And maybe that's the way we're going to learn the lesson. I said, I'll do what I can to awaken people up and get people to see things differently and make some wise choices. I'll do whatever I can, but I'm not going to fall into the drama triangle and rescue these people. Because someone said, how do you feel about your family taking it? I said, honestly, don't give a rat's bum. I said, it's not my problem anyway. So, yeah, Krishna's already killed him anyway, Holly. Exactly. So, yeah, it's just, and when you start to see it from a higher perspective, you really don't get caught up in the drama. You just don't. But at the same time, you've got to play the game of right and wrong. So Krishna was basically saying to Arjuna, in spiritual warfare, my friend, don't get caught up in this love and light. Yes, we all know that it's all an illusion. You and I both know that's an illusion. You and I basically both know that, this thing, it's kind of all meaningless anyway, but hey, you're in the game, go and play your role, play your character. Don't withdraw from your responsibility right now. Play the game. So right now I'm choosing to play the game. I play the game of right and wrong. I was telling someone today, I said, if I was on a mainstream media, debating the jab with people, I would say to them, I would just hit straight and jugular. I'd say, yep. So I said, so basically I'm your enemy and you're my enemy. I would actually say those words. And they'd probably say, oh, no, we don't say it like that. So no, you are. You are trying to force something into me that I don't want and shove it up me. And so I'd say, I'd say, that's what you want to do to me. So I said, no, I'm saying to you, no, me too. You're not going to shove something up my ass or up my body or just chuck needles into me for a fucking experiment, you piece of shit. That's what I'd say to them. So I said, you're my enemy. Now, I have no doubt they wouldn't quite know what to do and they'd start going off. So the point is, if you're going to play the game, you play it well. If someone is reasonable, be reasonable with them. If someone is being an absolute coercive thug, then be a coercive thug back to them. That's the basics of understanding. God, yeah, Holly, I'd love to see that on TV. Yeah, you'd love it. I think if I was, the Premier of WA, Holly, you'd be permanently laughing at my press conferences. I would be, I'd be another Donald Trump. I watch a lot of Mark McGowan's press conferences too. I love his conferences too. The way he absolutely trash trolls the New South Wales Premier is just priceless. I don't know if anyone watches them, but Mark McGowan's press conferences are really funny as well. He totally trolls the New South Wales like government. Like one of his ones recently, he pretty much said, the day he said, right now, I'm not going to take my health advice from New South Wales. And he said, he actually said, the most reprehensible, he said, most incompetent bunch of people I've ever seen in my life. Now, whether you agree with it or not, if you want to ever have a bit of a laugh, watch his press conferences. Has anyone watched Mark McGowan's press conferences? They're really funny, some of his press conferences, like really funny. Psalm 18, because I just see the game, I just see it as a game or whatever else. So Psalm 18 says the following, and this will give you an interesting insight into God that you might not have thought about. He says, the Lord has recompensed me according to my righteousness, according to the cleanness of my hands and his eyesight. In other words, when I'm doing right actions, and hands is all about actions, I get rewarded accordingly. With the merciful, you'll show yourself merciful. So in other words, if someone here is merciful to people and really shows kindness to people, then you will be shown kindness back. With an upright man, you will be shown upright. It's interesting, for example, people yesterday were very nervous walking through Northbridge because there's a lot of homeless people and other stuff like that. For example, I actually get on quite well with them, and especially Aborigines, Indigenous. But I like them, and I've seen Aborigines walking around yelling and abusing people because they're drunk. They see me, go, "Hey mate, how are you?" And they start talking to me like I'm their friend. Then they start going off telling me like, "Can you believe that guy over there, mate?" And they talk to me like friends. And someone said, "Why do they do that?" And I said, "Because I actually wrote my honest thesis on them and on Dreamtime, so subconsciously they know I'm their friend. They know I really like them. So therefore they do that with me." So with the merciful, you will show yourself merciful. With an upright, you will show yourself upright. So in other words, as someone who's honest, dishonest, you'll be shown. Holly gets hugs from some. Yeah, absolutely. I've had that too. So with an upright man or woman, you will show yourself upright. In other words, if you're honest and integrity, I show higher ethics in my business, I get it back with me. I don't get ripped off in business because I do that. So like yesterday, I was very annoyed with our webinar, but the fact that we had those problems. That's why I'm giving 2 free webinars to make sure people get over and above value. I do that partly because I believe in ethics and honesty and doing the right thing. And secondly, a bit of self-interest, because I know that if I do the right thing by people, then karmically I get the right thing back. So there's a little bit of self-interest when I do it, but I know I get looked after back. With the pure, you will show yourself to be pure. In other words, someone who's soft and pure will show yourself to be pure. But with the froward, and the word froward means to be perverse, I will show myself froward. So froward means, just so you know, it means a person difficult to deal with, contrary, or it also means perverse. Someone who's really perverse, someone who's just difficult, someone who's really hard work. So what it's saying here is God is saying, or the higher teachings is saying, you will be dealt with according to who you are and how you behave. So when I deal with people like who are unreasonable, I be doubly unreasonable back. If I deal with someone who's coercive, I'll be insanely coercive back, double fold. If I deal with someone who's nasty to me, I'll be nasty back. And that's why I like Trump. That's why Trump still to this day. I mean, I just love Trump because Trump, you could see that. Trump is well known, what many don't know, his humanitarian work. He's given so much to the Black community, for example. He does a lot of humanitarian work. But yeah, as soon as people would come after Trump in the media, he'd go after them back, And so I always related to Trump. So if you're going to play it, so to go to war, you have to be willing to beat people. If you've got family members trying to coerce you with things, don't be the nice girl or the nice guy. You want to be. I just go. Well, my family don't dare to mess with me. I go psycho with them. I remember one time my sister. My sister generally has been pretty good, but one time she started to go off at me about something, and she started saying to me about something like, a few years ago, with your kids, for goodness sake, Warren, homeschooling them, they're missing out on socialization. I'm your sister. I've got to say these things to you. And I say, I don't get involved talking to you. And I started yelling at her about your kids, do I? So I said, you want me to start fucking advising you about your kids and taking over your right and telling you about what you do as a bloody fucking parent? And she's going, hey, look, chill, Warren, chill. She's saying, I'm just giving my point of view. I don't want your fucking point of view. I said, I raised my kids how I want. And you want to start giving me that crap about my kids, I'll fucking give it back to you about your kids. And she goes, okay, fine. Okay, yeah, no problem. Just chill. So that's why I don't really get crap from people about vaccines. I don't really get crap from people. You either think I'm a complete nut job or I'm funny. Who thinks it's funny? Yeah. Yeah, I just love doing it, It's just great, So that's why I had so much fun. Yeah, Jasmine, I was talking about. Yeah, that's why it was great. I was so excited to do the role play yesterday and play the victim. I thought, this is going to be so cool, because I like doing different roles. When I was a kid, I used to play the villains in plays and everything like that. I loved it, So in duality. So if you're going to be in duality, you're playing a game of duality. This is where Freemasons and the dark do it so damn good. You know, Sashi embraced the inner psychopath. Yeah, we've all got the psychopath. We've all got that kind. We've all got it, you know. And Freemasons are clever. You know, they have their lovely little Freemasons lodge. They have their humanitarian things. They have their open days. They have their people who smile. They do lots of charitable work. And then behind the scenes, they kill kids and they eat them, and they do their Luciferian satanic ritual. They do it in secret and then deny the whole thing and call everyone a conspiracy theorist who says the opposite. I mean, you have to give it. That's really damn smart. And then they have their hand signals for courts for who's going to win. And yeah, I don't say this stuff unless I haven't just heard this on the internet. I've spoken to people who are in the lodge. I've spoken and I've met people who've dealt with people in that area. And I've met people who actually were. I had a friend who was a 32nd degree Mason. So I know what I'm talking about when I say this. So this is all actually happens, and they're blooming smart. And in fact, my Masonic friend used to always say to me, he goes, God, he goes, people are so stupid. He goes, seriously. He goes, we can do what we want. And he just would laugh. I said, yeah, exactly, you know. And he'd say, we can just do whatever we want because people are just so dumb. And we would even talk about, I said, you know, is it you guys who do the killings, you know, the secret killings, which no one finds out about? He goes, no, that's not us. It's the Opus Dei. I said, oh, okay. He said, yeah, we keep our hands clean of that. We just get them to do it. And so, like I said, I've had an interesting life. Who finds all this? Who thinks I've lived a really interesting life? Yeah, very. Yeah, it's just fun. So the point is, this is all real stuff. So if you're going to play the game, keep in mind they're very, very clever. You know, the Masons are clever, very, very clever. The you know, Ollie, who does the killing for them? It's the Opus Dei. I'll just type it here. There was a movie that talked about the Opus Dei. Those Tom Hanks ones you starred in, like, you know, about Da Vinci Code and that, you know, like angels and demons and things like that. So, yeah, one of those group talked about the Opus Dei. There was a guy who used to beat himself naked and do stuff like that, and he was in the Opus Dei. So, yeah, the Opus Dei gets revealed in that movie. So, yeah, there's a lot of satanic rituals going on in this whole jab thing for sure, you know. I saw last year it was actually Satanism being brought into the earth and open satanic worship, and I was showing people at the time, but people still weren't ready at that time. But, yeah, you know, there was open satanic rituals and sacrifices going on and everything like that to their god Moloch. So right now there are those who seek to war against our soul, and this battle is not flesh and blood. It's against demons, dark forces, and higher realms, okay, who know what they're doing. Yes, they want to destroy DNA. They want to basically corrupt the indigos, and they want to prevent the ascension of the planet as much as they can and maintain control, because the problem is, just think about it logically. If you're a group of dark dudes and, you know, dark females who'd basically gone away from the higher law and were misusing it against the Brotherhood and the Brotherhood of Light, and you know they're after you to try and make you accountable, the last thing you want to do is be accountable. So either what I'm speaking is the biggest load of fantasy I've ever made up in my life, or if it's true, obviously they're going to fight tooth and nail to hold on to it. And how would you do it? Well, you know that the higher Brotherhood's got a lot more power than you, but you know that your power is great enough that if you can use universal law back against the Brotherhood and get everyone in consent to agreeing to be altered and be fucked around with and have DNA change and things like that, then they've got control of you. There's nothing they can do about it. So they can basically block the Brotherhood out. And that's what they've done. That's how they were able to create frequency fences and create that. You know, they use the laws and the astrological laws and the Elohim creator gods back against the Brotherhood. And that's why they effectively were able to lock these realms and dimensions out. And that's why we've been spending our whole life. That's why I've been so excited the last week, because Grace and I were saying this is the first time I feel we've bloody penetrated that thing. I mean, we're able to get through their frequency fences and blocks ourselves, but we could only just go through ourselves using the codes. I feel we've broken through it for our country. We feel we've fucking broken it. Not completely broken it, but there's a crack in it. There's frequencies able to come in now. And that's why people are waking up. People are questioning now. That's why protests are waking up. That's why watching what's happening this week, I'm like, yeah, come on, let's just run in and let's just go to that. Let's start to move. So, yeah, it's definitely that. Definitely when you understand all this stuff, and look, I mean, normally I wouldn't say that except to our small group of people. But, yeah, like I said, where we're at right now, it's one of these things that you either think I'm a nut job or you go, okay, yep, this makes perfect sense. and something in your inner gut would just know. Something in your inner self goes, yep, actually. And to me, it's actually the only thing that makes sense. Like, it's the only thing that makes sense. I spent years going through everything, studying every mystery school teaching, and I've seen it myself, and then I've met people who've confirmed it. But to me, it just makes logical sense. I mean, you wouldn't have a fucked up realm like this unless someone fucked up is doing what's going on. Who agrees with me? You know, who actually can say, yeah, I can actually agree with what I'm saying here. And yeah, it's not the first time that humanity has been attacked by gene therapy and things like that. Yeah, it happened in Atlantis. It's happened in various other times, you know, all this kind of stuff. You know, it's happened. There was the reason why Mars has been by and large desolate is Mars was involved in a war, you know, things like that. So Miko used to think you were nuts. Yeah. Well, I probably still am, but hey, yeah, Tuskegee's experiment in the US. Yeah, exactly. So there's all this going on. And yeah, it's time to name it. Yeah, I'm still nuts, Jasmine, absolutely. But I think people like, I once dated a girl years ago who was an absolute psycho. She used to say to me, well, she goes, I think guys like psychos more than normal chicks. And I used to crack up and I'd say, I think you probably got a point. So yeah, there's those who seek. This battle is not flesh and blood. Let's just read Ephesians out, okay? Finally, my brethren, or my feminine, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armour of God that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, but we wrestle against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places like gods, higher powers, fallen archons, and other realms. Wherefore take unto you the whole armour of God that you may be able to withstand in the evil day. And these are the italics of my own editions. Have strength to resist when the dark forces attack. And having done all else, when you've done exhausted all avenues, you've given up, you're on your knees, you're wiped out, to stand anyway. And refuse to bow and say, though I'm slain, yet will I trust in him. In other words, though, and sometimes I have to do that in this war. I throw my hands up and I'm saying, this is beyond me. I don't know how to see this change. I did this early on this year, I must admit. I had a very unusual vision early in the year, and I clearly saw the spiritual realms where we're in and over this place, and I actually saw the dark forces panicking. And I was told by the councils I worked with, they were smiling, saying, you're actually making ground. You just don't see it yet. They're panicking. They're going to rush their agenda. You watch. And I told a few people, they're going to rush their agenda because they're panicking. And if you notice that up until the end of last year, they were doing things systematically. This year, they've rushed everything through. And that's because they're actually panicking. And so that when you see things in the spirit realm, there's a scripture in Kings where it says Elijah, the prophet, it said his servant kept saying, when they were surrounded by dark forces, they were scared. And Elijah kept saying, you don't realize that there were more with us than those who are against us. And the servant said, don't be ridiculous. And Elijah turned and said, God, open his eyes that he may see. And his eyes were opened and he saw. And he goes, oh my gosh, he saw angels and light beings everywhere. So when you're moving in that higher power and I know the might and the power and who you are, then you know that there's far more who are with us than those who are against us. I mean, what seems to be playing out in the physical, it's just a game. So, and then it goes on to say, stand therefore having your loins girded about with truth, the belt of truth, standing firm in your truth, having on the breastplate of righteousness, knowing that through the Christ consciousness, we're forgiven, released, whatever, however you want to name that. So basically just know that we've got our righteousness, just know that who we are, there's no guilt, there's no shame, that we are righteous in who we are right now today. Everything's perfect who we are, however you want to call it. Feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace, which means you walk your path, walk your truth, proclaim peace, proclaim healing, take action to make a difference. Above all, taking the shield of faith, notice the words above all, so that you can quench the fiery darts of the wicked. In other words, what happens when you start to doubt? You start getting thoughts hammering you, pew, 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 like a video game. So the shield of faith is where you sit there and you're holding it up. The shield of David, the shield of Michael is what it's talked about by J.J. Hurtak in the Keys of Enoch. And I just imagine putting up that shield of faith like a light shield, and I just bounce it straight off back. And I just say the shield of Michael, the shield of David, All I know is who I am, and I know we've already run this war, and I know we're moving through it. And the shield of faith quenches the darts, taking the helmet of salvation, and these are all metaphors, as you can see, shielding your mind, knowing prosperity, know you've been saved from lower realms, know that you're being freed from the wheel of incarnation, and know you're being freed and brought into higher prosperity, higher vibration, and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. In other words, use higher vibrational scrolls, scriptures, the Bible, the keys of Enoch, the Dead Sea Scrolls, various other words. I've used Chopra's books in the past. Whatever you get led to use, the higher vibrational scriptures to basically attack. And then praying always of all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, which means petitioning, asking, naming, manifesting, and watching with all perseverance and supplication for all saints. So what he's saying, keeping in mind this is written in old language, in simple terms, is that it's that mind. It's all about the mind, the mental realm, and, and petitioning and speaking out. That's why I'm very careful what I speak out. That's why I get very... people around my life start saying, well, it's inevitable we're going to go into lockdown. I'm like, fuck off. Seriously, don't speak that over our state. If that happens, yeah, we'll deal with it, but don't speak that shit over our state, not around me. You can get fucked. That's kind of why I'm like that. And I'm vicious with people on Facebook, and I've upset a few people and had people unfriend me. And I do that because I don't see the person behind them. And I learnt this when I was helping people who basically, and Grace would remember this, with Brian, who had worked with people who come out of Satanism and been high-level warlocks. They know that everything is basically, the spirit realm, what's happening there. Smith Wigglesworth, one of the greatest healers in the last 100 years, he would walk into healing meetings, and literally everywhere, people who were crippled, their legs would grow back. People who had cancer would be instantly healed. And Wigglesworth was known for his crazy psychopathic ways of healing people. He would walk up. There was one time, where there was actually a woman who had cancer all over her face. And he walked up to her and said, "Get out, you devil of cancer." And he punched her in the face and sent her flying. And everyone was just in shock. And she gets straight up and the cancer's dropped off her and she's healed and she's celebrating, not even hurt. And someone said, "Why did you punch her?" And he goes, "I didn't punch her." He goes, "I punched that fucking spirit that I was seeing poking its eyes at me." And he was well known for doing that. He would walk up to regularly to people who had illnesses, and he would just hit them. Like somebody said, "Yeah, I've got stomach ulcers," and he just punched him in the stomach. Someone else, he'd whack him in the head. And one time, some guy went off his face at him as he's healing someone. Holly loves it, someone went off at him and says, "How dare you treat people like that?" And he turned around and goes, "How dare you interrupt my meeting? Shut the fuck up." He said, "I know my business." He said, "Be quiet, you devil." He was blunt. Jesus said one time to his own disciple, when Peter said to him, "Jesus, stop speaking like this, telling people about your crucifixion. That'll never happen to you. You're putting fear in the disciples." And he said, "Get behind me, Satan." So these prophets and these great teachers of old, they were not the love and light wussies who'd walk around smiling like, "Hello, my name is Jesus. Oh, I love all of you." Or, "Hello, I'm Buddha, and I am here to bring you healing," or some shit like that. I mean, most of these guys were spiritual dynamos. I mean, you read about Gandhi. Gandhi was an absolute, fearless man. He was put in prison a few times with his beliefs. He just kind of said, "I'm not bowing to you, you extortionist." These spiritual leaders and teachers, these guys were tough, So, and Wigglesworth would see the demons behind these people and would just speak like that to them. Emily loves the voice and sound effects. Yeah, it's why I still love watching Reinhard Bonnke. He's an African healer who would have 100,000 people. And I remember watching in astonishment when I was a young man, because one of my friends says, go watch this. And I'll share about Bonnke because this is very interesting about warfare, because Bonnke used to do extraordinary miracles almost anywhere he went. And one time in Africa, I was watching his healing meeting, and there was his people. And all he said was, "Get all the blind people over here, or all the deaf people over here right now." And they got them all into a massive group. It's about a few hundred of them. He yelled at the top of his voice, "I take authority over the strong man of blindness, and I cast you out by the authority of the blood and the name of Jesus now." And he yelled at the top of his voice, "And I loose your ears." And as he said that, everyone who was deaf, instantly their ears were open and they could hear. And that was because Bonnke knew his authority. He knew that these strong men, like many people when they've got sicknesses or problems in an area, it's the strong men who are binding these people's area. That was why Jesus, if you read the scriptures, actually said, you can't take a strong man's kingdom till you bind the strong man. In other words, you lock him down and stop the spiritual power. That's what we did in the meeting yesterday. We realized that we were being really attacked. So that's what I went out. I went out there, took authority over the strong man and bound that thing up. And as soon as I did that, everything instantly stopped. Even I was stunned how instantly it happened. All the technical problems stopped. Once I saw the strong man, thanks to grace guiding me, I took authority and kicked the strong man out. And you can see that in scriptures and this present darkness and books like that. You got these principalities and realms. I know in Australia right now, for example, there's a strong man who's ruling over this. I mean, there's various underlings. I mean, there's underlings there. So I'm aiming to get the fucking strong man because I know if I can bind this motherfucker and get through to him along that team, we know Australia, this whole thing will end. Now, how long it will take, I don't know, because there seems to be a lot of levels to this video game that we're playing. But I know we're getting close when we're starting to get attacked. I know we're starting to get not that far off. So, you know, praying with all supplication in spirit and watching with perseverance and supplication for all the saints. And these are why I always quote this art of war, you know. I believe we've got a short time now. And it's time to stop these fucking rights violations taken. I mean, I got a very clear download this morning. It was along that kind of line. It's time to go very hardcore about this because at the end of the day, it's, when I say hardcore, teach everything and let this integrate into people's psyche because the best time to do this is right now. But what I was told was right now, over the next 6 months, I can see a lot of rights being taken away very quickly. And I can see vaccine passports right through our countries and everywhere if this doesn't get stand up and awakened. Whereas I'm seeing if this does get awakened, this can be stopped. And this can be significantly limited in its application and scope. And it's great to see what's happening this week now with prayer groups standing up, like Pat Mercedes 2 days ago and others. It's all signs that we're starting to make some progress, but there's more to be done. So it's a good time is that as much as possible, and this is the misnomer, is to subdue the enemy without fighting. And to me, how I take that is the spiritual realm. Although we're speaking that and we're speaking the truth, at the same time, we're not doing it from fear. We're not doing it from worked up. We're just knowing that our deepest truth. Yesterday, I didn't go running around and yelling at the top of my voice to bind the strong man. Yesterday, I didn't do much at all. I just sat down on the chair, went into a deep place of silence until I could get a clear sense. And all I just did was I just imagined a vortex and a volcano going around to clear up the energy. I just saw the strong man and just calmly said in my heart, I take authority by the scriptures to bind this strong man, bind this female mother, because that's what I saw it was. And I just saw it being taken and moved out of the way and cleansed out of the way. And then I just spoke the blood of Christ over the whole place. And then I did that, took about 30 seconds and went back inside. So, you know, it was a very simple, very basic, very straightforward thing like that. So right now what's happening is we're getting a really good group of people here. So right now they're giving us plenty of opportunity to step up and win. And right now, as I said, and this is why many protests are getting nowhere, because you've got to outthink right now. This is about winning the war. And this is why I reckon we've made progress, is by and large, most people don't take the work that all of us are doing right now very seriously. And I really hope it stays that way for a while, personally. I'm very excited I'm going to get attacked by some spirits, but I'd be very happy if right now no one takes this work all that seriously. That would be my ideal situation for quite a long time to come. Because once people start taking it seriously, then it's a bit more challenging. And doesn't so right now, the great thing about the work that we're all doing here at City Awakening is that no one takes us that seriously. Right now, we've only got about 34 people here, and that's the way I like it right now, you know, 30, 40, 50. And that's why I'm able to speak this today. If we had 100 people today, I probably wouldn't have been given permission to speak this message today. But I feel everyone here today is ready for this. And it doesn't need many people to make this difference. It only needs a small number of people. My guess is you'll be shocked when you find out who's really controlling the world. There's probably about 20, 30 people, and in that group of 20 or 30 people, there's probably about 10 or 12 who've got a big say, and then in that 10 or 12, there's probably 3 who are really influential and pretty much run everything. I mean, there's one behind those 3. You'll find it'll be something as simple as that. So it's just when you understand how things work, it doesn't matter about our numbers or anything else. So in terms of engaging in warfare, it's very important, and Donald Trump actually quoted this saying from Sun Tzu, one of his conferences, saying that often we have to lose the small battles to learn lessons to win the war. So engaging in warfare is knowing who you are and learning the spiritual laws of the realm. Now, I can't teach that all in today's one session, but I would encourage all of you, if you're serious about spiritual warfare, to really make that an important thing for you to bring in as part of your learning. You know, as with all the other things you're doing, and while you're doing that, is know that learning the spiritual laws of the realms that we live in and how they relate to the higher realms is really important. Otherwise, whatever you don't know and you're ignorant in, the enemies will use to try against you, to try and trip you up. You know, the war is in the astral mental realm. So what the scriptures say is that the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, which means you're not 3D, you're not human. You're not going to protests, and I'm not saying that that won't be part of it as time goes on. Everything's got its part. But the real war happens, as Charles Finney once said, in the spirit realm. And what's interesting is when my friend Brian, who taught me a lot of this, met one of the top satanic warlocks in the country who'd been involved in the takeover of Australia years ago in that plan, and he came out of it, his first thing he said to Brian was, "How the fuck do you know all this stuff?" He said, "We thought we had the whole country under mind control, and we thought all the churches had been quietened. How do you know this stuff?" He said, "How did you get through our vortexes, and how did you get through our matrices and the things you put in place?" That was what he asked him. How did you work that out? So what we're teaching today is something that they'll do anything to basically stop people knowing, because it's very easy to win a war if people don't believe they're in one. And I'm sure most of you know that. If you don't believe you're in a war, it's easy to win it. So Paul says, although we walk in the flesh, we don't war after the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God, the pulling down of strongholds, casting down imaginations. So read this. Casting down imaginations. This is mind control. The CIA assassins, which do mind control, if you study Stuart Swerdlow, they're actually putting imaginations and thoughts and projecting them into you. And spirits are doing this all the time. There's warlocks and there's people doing satanic sacrifices. We found 4 or 5 years ago, I went through a tremendous spiritual attack, and we found out there were like covens and Satanists who were attacking us in our local area. And we found where they were doing it from. We went to the highest point nearby our house because I knew that's where I'd find it. And I found altars and I found things that set up. So I proceeded to pour oil and salt over it, read scriptures over it, and then I pissed all over it and literally pissed on it. And then I just broke it all up. So I knew when they get there, they know what I'd done to it. And that literally ended the whole thing. So, you know, it's understand that casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, and read this, bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. In other words, take control over your mind and your thoughts. Who here definitely thinks I'm a bit psycho now? If you didn't before. You can see why you have to have breaks for me pretty regularly. Holly, more so now, and love it. All I can say, interesting day to invite my mum for Nadine. Yes, very interesting thing. So, yeah, to your mum, hi. And there are nicer people than me, like Steve, like Grace, William, who are very normal. So you just have to dismiss me as one of his crazy people. So, Holly, you love it. That just says some scary things about you, Holly and Mika. That's all I can say. If you like me that much. Okay, so so casting down and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. So that's the thing to realize here, and that's what we're doing here. So using the power of God to deal with people and energies at the same level. And I read that whole thing out to you. So it's really in that astral and that mental realm. So some of the keys are knowing who you are. These are ones you can write down, look at if you want to. I'm just going to reference a couple of them myself. especially just quickly cover these through and just show you the main points of these ones that I'm giving you here. Ephesians 1 I really love, and 2. And it's one of these things I always find it hard to teach something like this because there's so much meat in this. I get excited and somehow I have to realize, hang on a sec. So let's just cover the basics. I like this one because it talks about the exceeding greatness of his power to those of us who believe. So in other words, we have unlimited power in the Christ consciousness when we believe. Raymond Grace says he says, if you don't believe you can't do it, you can probably do it. So who's to say we can't completely collapse the whole new world order energetically and bring in the new awakening and the new fifth dimensional ascension in the next 10 years? I mean, someone's got to do it. So it may as well be us. That's how I see it. May as well be us. Far above all principality and power and might and dominion, and every name that is named, not only in this world, but in that which is to come, and has put all things under his feet and given him to be the head of the church. So what this is saying is, remember Ephesians 6 talks about these principalities and powers and these dark lords who are doing things. What it's saying is that Christ, as the Christ consciousness now, by the higher universe of the Father, has been given authority over this universe and over all these laws that the satanic, that the archons and all these guys have brought into place, for dominion. He's been given authority over all this stuff. So the moment you step into the Christ consciousness, think of it this way. It's like you get a job with the police, okay? So the police give you a badge. So you walk up to someone and show them the badge. Now, even if you are a small, tiny person who looks a bit like a ferret and you've got glasses and you look really weak, if you hold that police's badge and say, by the authority of the police, if you don't do this, I will arrest you, that person will have to obey. In other words, that person is going to be imprisoned. So think of it that way. So when you operate in the authority of the Christ consciousness, and the authority of the Christ, you have authority over Belial, over Satan, over any of these guys, okay? So that's really important for protection, to actually understand that you have full authority over it. So when I go yesterday, for example, and I bound that little bugger up that was disrupting our webinar and our live stream, as soon as I did that, it's straight. And as soon as I bound up those spirits or whatever else, and I took authority over them, I didn't go in my own name, because if I said, "Hey, in the name of Warren Black," they'd go, "Who the fuck are you?" But I used the higher Christ consciousness and the higher orders. That's why those of you who come to our clearings would notice I use the order of Enoch, the order of Melchizedek, the office of the Christ, the blood of Christ. I use all that. So I'm invoking higher orders because I know they've got higher authority. I'm just some bloke who just lives in Perth and does shit, you know. So I know that I come in the higher authority of the Christ energy. And how do I know, though, that I've got the right to do that? Well, there's a few places that tell me I've got the right to do that. Number one is no one is telling me you can't. But I like to get confirmation, you know. A former lawyer, I like to get evidence of stuff. You know, I don't like to say things without evidence. So it says here, you he is quickened who was dead in trespasses and sins. In other words, who is living in your old karmic way, living a fucked up life with your mind all over the place and your finances a mess and your, you know, energy fucked up and living in the matrix and just doing whatever the government told you and living in fear. And like, as it says, in days past, you walked according to the way of this world, the spirit that now works in the children of disobedience. Interesting, it used that word rebellion or disobedience. So in other words, once upon a time, you lived up in this fucked up matrix and you lived your life and you were probably thinking, oh, I hope I get married one day, or, oh, I wish I could find my twin flame, and, oh, God, you know, I just want this, I just want that, and why can't I have this magic house given to me, and, you know, why does the world have to be this way? You know, why can't I just do this? And, you know, living in that kind of shitty little existence. And it says, and, you know, living in your way of thinking, just fulfilling your own carnal desires, going down, getting drunk at the pub and doing all kinds of stuff that were and living mindless existences and just doing whatever you felt like and thinking, who cares? And living this kind of, by and large, meaningless, really unproductive, really stupid life. But then it says, but even when we were dead from this way, in other words, our spiritual life was dead, our heart was dead, our mind was completely like disconnected from our heart and our higher self and our higher consciousness. said we got quickened. In other words, got upgraded, like DNA upgraded, yeah, pew, and raised us up together and made us sit together in heavenly places with Christ Jesus. Now, the metaphor there is that like, so you're now sitting in that high universe, and I always get this picture, in that highest throne authority, one with Christ, one with the Father, one with a higher universe, looking down at this lower universe. I often like to get that picture myself. Helps me to see it. So that's why I know I've got this authority, because it tells me that. It tells me this kind of stuff, that I've got this authority. And then I also know I've got this authority when I go over here. By the way, who's enjoying this? I don't want to be losing people. If I'm kind of losing people and not fast, just let me know. You know, I kind of don't want to. I'm excited. I can feel things are moving right now. Okay, great. Good. Now I can feel people are getting it and I'm going with this. So, yeah, now you're ready for some meat now, everyone. You need some meat to go to war here right now. That's why I'm giving you meat and I'm just going hard. And I'm breaking all my normal rules, because I remember once going to a seminar and it went for like 15-hour days. And I remember just being told, you've got to break through your limitations of your mind, you know. And that's what we're doing here, just moving up that frequency now. So Jesus said this here, all power is given to me in heaven and earth. Actually, no, this isn't the one. It's one. There's another one. Holly's vegan, but we'll have this meat. Love it. You see, I love this one here. So what he says is go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. He that believes and is baptized shall be saved, but he that believes not shall be damned. And these signs shall follow them that believe. In my name they will cast out devils. In other words, they will cast out demons. And all throughout the scriptures, you see Christ casting out demons. You see Paul the apostles casting out demons. You see all the great spiritual teachers, Reinhard Bonnke casting out demons, John G. Lake, who was a great healer, Catherine Kuhlman, Smith Wigglesworth, all these great ones casting out demons. It says, they will take up serpents, and if they drink any deadly thing or get a jab forced into them against their will where they're pinned down, it won't hurt them. They shall lay hands on the sick and they shall recover. So there's a lot given there, the higher authority that Christ actually gave, you know. Oops, thanks, Holly. So it says, he that signs that follow them shall believe. In my name they will cast out devils. They'll cast out demons, okay? So it says they will, and notice this here, if they drink a deadly thing or get something put into them they don't agree to, it won't hurt them. So this is starting to get in a really high Christ consciousness. But this is when you go, woof, and you receive the higher word. So this is why I know we have this authority, okay? I know that 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 I know. And every source I've studied, including the Kriya Yogi, to everything like that, you know, I know that we've been given this authority to do this work. And that's why I love reading that one from Ephesians, which I read you, where it says with Paul very clearly that Christ was given high authority over everything and over every realm, not only in this age, but in the age which is to come. You can see this also when you go to Psalm 110. I used this one, by the way. The one I used yesterday wasn't this one, but I'll show you it's the next one I actually used. So it says, the Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies your footstool. Now, keep in mind what I just read to you then. In Ephesians 2, it says that God has raised you up to be seated in heavenly places with Christ, okay? So get that picture. So it says here, but Christ is now sitting at the right hand of the Father until you make your enemies your footstool. And guess who's sitting there with Christ? You are. That's what it says. So either this is bullshitting or it's true. So we are sitting in that right hand of higher authority. And I love this particular one. I often speak this over myself. The Lord shall send the rod of your strength out of Zion, rule in the midst of your enemies. In other words, they're my fucking bitches. So that's how I see it. They're my fucking bitches, the whole fucking lot of them. And It's one of the things with Edward, many of you see him now prospering at 17. What people don't know was this guy was speaking these scriptures over himself for years. And I was speaking them over him when he was a baby. And even when, as an adult, he was regularly going out reading scriptures and speaking these over himself and speaking himself as a king in dominion. It's not surprising now, but he's living his life like that. So it says, the Lord shall send the rod of your strength out of Zion, rule in the midst of your enemies. And it says here, your people shall be willing in the day of your power. In other words, when you step into your authority and you take that Christ consciousness, people get inspired. Like many of you are here and excited by this because you're feeling my power because I've stepped into it and who I am, and it's inspiring you and you're finding it. So all you have to do is go out and step into your power and do everything that I'm doing. And guess what? You'll get people follow you. You'll get family around you get inspired. You'll get people start to say, hang on a sec. Friends who are starting to doubt say, hang on a sec, maybe I've got some authority too. And then they'll start to think, maybe I can stand up. I mean, Sam Buckley was telling me, and I was stunned and very happy when I was hearing her mum, who's been listening to all my webinars, who was right in the matrix and, in a way, and working as a, nurse and that, has taken steps. She's resigning and she's stepping into something new, taking some big steps in her life. So that was just that's like the best news. When I hear that people are hearing this and stepping up, I know these same people will cause others to step up, okay? So keep in mind, you have no idea as to the impact you can make, every one of you, the impact you can make on others around you. You can be the leaders in your community. You can be the light of your city. You really can, and don't doubt that for 1 minute. So Psalm 110. So I'm showing you all these just to give you evidence for your authority and who you are, okay? So it says here, and this is the one I spoke yesterday, and this is one of the ones I often use in spiritual warfare. So it says here about, let the high praises of God be in their mouth and a two-edged sword. So notice those words, speaking it out of your mouth and having a sword in your hand. In other words, taking action and imagining speaking high vibrational words. But why? To bind their kings with chains and their nobles with fetters of iron, to execute upon them the written judgment. This honour has all the saints. In other words, anyone who's a Christ-conscious believer has the honour to bind demon lords up and put them in a fucking lower astral realm and fuck them up, okay? That's why those who come to our clearings know that we often say, take these spirits, bind them and move them to lower astral realms where they can't come back and lead them to places justly earned. So I know I'm careful with my words. I don't want to disrespect these lords, but at the same time, I speak the authority of the word and the mandate I'm allowed to speak, okay? So this gives you authority as somebody who walks out there in the Christ consciousness and knowing you have that authority from the higher realms. See, Raymond Grace, you can see that he walks in the Christ consciousness. He knows he has his authority, so he acts in it accordingly. He said no one has to tell him what to do. And I had someone ask me yesterday, Warren, who's your guru? And I said, me. He said, really? I said, yeah, me. I said, I did have gurus for years because while you're still learning your spiritual craft, you do need your gurus and mentors to guide you. But eventually you outgrow your gurus and you become your own. Okay. So so even if you don't remember everything I said, which you probably won't, all I care about is who now is starting to believe you got the authority to engage in spiritual warfare and kick these guys' asses. Who's now starting to at least believe or know that within your heart and your mind that you can do this. That's what the purpose of that was. Okay, good. As long as you're starting to know that. So, holy absolutely freaking lootly. So everything I'm doing, you can do it. If you're not sure about it, you just say it in the name. All you do is I'll be teaching you how to protection. I follow the command strictly. I don't piss around and say whatever. That's why I use the words in the name of Christ, in the name of the higher lords. I bring in that higher name myself, and I always use my protection. So all you have to do is in the name of Christ, in the name of, the name of the Father, in the name of the order of Enoch and Melchizedek, and, and all that I've learned in dealing with the City Awakening movement, you can even do that or whatever else, whatever helps you feel like, yep, that's how you do this. So we are in this war. And at some stage, I'll teach more about this. But if you ever want to have some fun, you read the War Scroll, the armies of Michael versus Belial. That's what it said. This was a book that was found in 1945, hidden away under the Dead Sea. And it talked about this war that would be here at the end of the age between the sons of light and the sons of darkness. And it talked about the war and who was behind this. In 2019, I remember I had a terrible year. And some who know me remember I was sick, I was a mess. And the reason why was I was seeing the armies of Belial coming into the earth, as was Grace. And I was just like in shock and in absolutely, I fell apart for a while. And that's why we're seeing such brutal things going on. Holly, is that the Nag Hammadi scripts? Yeah, I think that's one of them. Yeah, there's so many of them, Holly, like so many scrolls. But yes, that's one of them. So now let's finish off with how to protect yourself in warfare. Now, a lot of this, some of you would already have seen. So just like asset protection, you don't go into battle without first creating your defenses of protection and knowing who you're against, okay? So planning and strategy is the key. And I teach asset protection with finances and wealth because there's no point making money you don't get to keep, okay? Likewise, there's no point going into a battle without first counting the cost and knowing what you're doing. In Luke 14:25-33, Christ gave a metaphor when he said, nobody, he said, starts building a building without doing a costing. In other words, nobody decides to build a house and goes, oh, we'll just start building. And the builder goes, how much is your budget? Oh, just whatever it takes. People say, what's the scope? Have you got an architect? What's the costing? They'll do a budget. They'll do a project budget plan, everything. So he says, don't go into spiritual war without counting the cost. So if you go into war and you've got a lot of assets, and things like that, or you got a certain thing, there you may have to give up some things. You may have to give up some family members. You may have to lose some friendships. You may even have to give up a job that you love. You know, you may have to walk away from something that's very dear from you. You may have to end a connection with someone who basically, is actually draining your energy and not actually building your energy. And, you may have to go more into a connection with something that, goes against, but you can feel it's right for you at this time. There's a cost. There's a cost for everything. And the key to going into spiritual warfare is to absolutely be comfortable and think these things through. I mean, when I started to go this path, I had to think these things through. I asked myself, what can happen to me? One of my fears, which I'll own and be honest with you, was for a long time, after all my battles with regulatory authorities, is how much will I be targeted by government? That's just something I really can't be fucked with anymore. I prefer to live a simple life in Perth and just live out in Woodman's Point and just kind of do basic things. And to be really honest, I actually got to the point where I needed certain assurances. Like all I said was, I don't care what it costs, as long as I know you're with me and I know that I'm protected and I know that my life basically is in good hands and I know that I'm always looked after. And I did say to them, and look, I really can't be fucked. And I actually was given an assurance about 3 months ago. I was given a divine word where I was clearly told, go out and go hard and step up. You'll have favor in your city at this time. Have nothing to fear. And so I was given that assurance. But I was also told at one stage before that I had to give up certain things. I had to walk away and give up my tax agent license, had to give up my lawyer thing, had to give up a whole lot of my things that were dear to me, my statuses. And the reason why was obvious now, because these things are all ties which they could have used against me. Whereas right now I've let all this go. So there is a price for spiritual warfare, and it's important to be comfortable with that one, weigh it up, and know and make the changes that you need to make. So this is why we go through this process. So don't go into spiritual warfare when you're worked up and in a state. That is why yesterday I balanced myself. That's why William and Grace and I always work at clearing everyone's energies and balancing first. There's no point going against dark forces who are experts in manipulating energies and making you go more and more frantic if we're not balanced. So this is why I always breathe. I get myself into balance. If I'm not balanced, I won't even do this. I'll go out for a walk. I will go onto the beach. I will go and have a salt bath, whatever it takes to help me balance. I'll do some homeopathics. I will get my bobber out. Then I just do this breathing. But the big thing what I do here, now why do I do the golden vortex? I was taught this by two spiritual masters who I work with about using this. one guy who was very powerful shaman who lived over in the East Coast. He taught me about using the golden vortex spinning. And interestingly, 4 years earlier, another guy had taught me this, who was a master healer. And so I was taught to imagine the golden vortex. I like to get 3 witnesses because the Bible says by 2 or 3 witnesses. And then I actually read in a book called Earth's Energies by Adrian Clark that they had found that tornadoes and vortexes could actually enhance and magnify the energy of the Earth. So that's one of the first things I do. I use clockwise because anti-clockwise is for scrambling. That's why Satanists, when they're putting curses on people, always set up a circle and go 7 times anti-clockwise, okay? They do it for that reason. So that's why clockwise reverses it. So I only use anti-clockwise when I'm trying to scramble an energy, and then to activate, I go clockwise. But I always start to protection, I go clockwise. That's what I generally do. And I keep doing that till I feel the energy is enhancing. And then the other thing which Russia's technology has shown, which the Arcturians talk about, the keys of Enoch, just the Bible in the book of Isaiah and in the book of Revelation, it talks about a white crystalline pyramid made after the dimensions of the Great Pyramid. So pyramids are energy enhancers. So when you imagine a white crystalline pyramid coming from Arcturus and coming down from heaven is what I do. And I just see and feel it coming over the whole earth, over the whole group, over everyone. I even imagine sub-pyramids coming in, going shoop over me, over our little subgroup, over our country of Australia, or over whatever. So I just imagine that group right now. So I'm just imagining the pyramid. And pyramids are immediate energies enhancers. And I'm sure already as I'm talking about it, you're feeling the energy raise up even more because I'm doing all this. I'm imagining a vortex right now, and I'm also imagining a pyramid at the same time, covering this whole group and covering a whole country, and I'm covering everywhere and even covering the whole earth. Then what happens is that once you do that, I don't always do this, but sometimes you can also imagine the flower of life just coming and imagining it coming over our whole city I'm doing right now and over our group. I sometimes do this one, sometimes don't. And the flower of life is a well-known activator. It's after the cycles of creation. It was supposedly invented by Metatron and Melchizedek as a creation of life. It was found on the Egyptian temples and pyramids everywhere as a secret symbol that no one knew about for a long time. So the flower of life is a very powerful symbol. Drunvalo Melchizedek, his book teaches all about the background of the flower of life. I then start to call in. The reason I call in these particular 5 ones always is they are the 4 archangels from the high universe of the Father who oversee this one, who work with the Council of 9 and the Brotherhoods of Light, Uriel, Michael, Raphael, and Gabriel. And Metatron comes to the Order of Enoch and works closely with the Order of Enoch, which is a whole separate military universe again. So I always call in these ones to bring in the Order of Enoch and to bring in the, and also that one. So just breathe for a second and just really feel the energy. And just type, and just for next minute, I just want you to feel what we're doing here right now. And I'm going to get you to do this, to invite in Uriel, Michael, Raphael, Gabriel, and Metatron, all of you. And then once you can feel their presence, and just type in the chat if you feel their presence and if you can actually feel the raising of the energy. Just going to give you 30 seconds. Okay, so Sheldon can feel, Sam can feel, Christine, Famita, Gail, Sheldon, Emily, great. Cool, I can feel it. It's actually fullness in my chest, Holocol solid. Pam, Holly, feel their presence. Great, Holly, yeah, it's good. I know you said sometimes you've had challenges. That's good. It means you're really tapping in and getting more sensitive. So, yeah, the more you do it, the more you start to feel it and become very real. So, waiting in service. No, I like that. That's excellent. Waiting in service, yes. Well, if you ask them what they would like from you, they will tell you. That's what I feel to tell you. I got a vision of you sitting there waiting for them just patiently, like a warrior waiting for orders from a higher council. That was the vision I just got for you. So I have a feeling you're going to get given direction in the coming days as a warrior, some kind of work. So you definitely want to get to action and get to war. I can see that, and want to fight and serve however you can. So, and if you get guided by them, you will find it. You will actually much easier than trying to do this in your own strength. You're crying. I don't think you do that very often. So, yeah, Pam, so much love. I feel like crying. Yep. Miko says the elders. Christine, yep. Yeah, they had messages for you, exactly. They actually do. They really desire to work with people, and every one of you. They're craving warriors to actually stand up and fight, but not just warriors, but warriors who are wise, who are obedient, and who are centered and who will listen. Remember, one of the greatest warriors, spiritual warriors for centuries was Joan of Arc, who was a 14-year-old girl who was visited by Mother Mary in a chapel and told to raise up an army and go to the army of the French army and take on this matter. And imagine there's a 14-year-old girl being told to go to the French armies and the king and tell them to go to war against Britain, who had been holding them as slaves for centuries. And, basically she succeeded. She led them to victory. And her reward was she got burnt at the stake at 17 for being a witch, for having her vision in the first place. So she wants to rule. Yeah. So really I just can see that. They've got messages for people right now. They actually do. Yeah, and the picture I get of you, Holly, is you're just actually like bowing down with a sword, which is kind of there, which you've been carrying for years to do in your own strength, but you're listening to them now. It's like you submitted yourself to them. So now they're like, great, now we can work with you. And now we can guide you into what we really want you to do. And I have a feeling you've got something pretty important. Yep, a council, something to do with government and the politics and what's going on, and some kind of work. That's all I know. So Sashi, yes, my whole body is full of currents. Yeah. Yeah. This is what happens. And while you're doing that, I'll just also mention that, as you know, we always command any false spirits that are not aligned with the order of Melchizedek, the high priest, the order of Enoch, and the office of the Christ to leave now. We always do that. Because that makes sure that no false messages can come in. Because I know these sneaky little buggers can always sneak their way in. And so I know they've got to be grounded up, hunted out, and locked away. Electro, feeling a cool, excited, no-nonsense energy and liver discomfort. Yep. So just keep feeling it. One of the things is why we always use the scriptures, like the blood of Christ is one of the weapons. I'm going to keep going through this, but you just keep listening and letting the energy just settle. I'm just going to keep going through this, because the blood of Christ is one of the weapons that Satanists fear more than anything else. That's one of the things I'll mention there, and they fear the scriptures. That's why I've mentioned them. So, for example, we often read Psalm 23 and Psalm 91. So when we do our little SAS intercession groups on Thursday, Friday, and our clearings and some other things that we do, just about 4 or 5 of us, like Grace, Christine, William, Fiona, we often read these Psalms. They're some of the most powerful activation scriptures that you'll ever get in your life. I spoke these over our sons, and definitely will read them to finish off this session today. And like I said, the blood of Christ is one of the weapons that the Satanists fear more than anything else. And this is the whole teaching in itself. I don't have time to go into this today, but generally, all you got to do is just read these out. It actually says that the blood of Christ, and to explain why the blood of Christ is so important, is that in ancient times, blood was a part of appeasing gods. So generally, what would happen is that generally you don't get invoked release without sacrifice. Okay, That is why, by the way, they do child sacrifice, because they know these laws. So they want to invoke the dark laws. So to do that, they've got to make sure it's innocent blood. Now, by contrast, the laws of the light, that's why in ancient times they would use animal sacrifices or whatever else, like goats and lambs and things like that. And what Christ did was did away with all of this. And that's why he said the blood of Christ that was shed, the, eternal thing. Now, if you read Dr. Rebecca Brown's book, How He Came to Set the Captives Free, who worked directly with Satanist witches and priestesses who she'd bought out, one thing they absolutely fear is the blood of Christ. Absolutely fear the blood of Christ more than anything else. And I can remember, Grayson would remember that there was a guy called Carl who we worked with who used to run intercession groups at that time. And Carl used to regularly say the one thing they would freak out is when they would say the blood of Christ. And Carl could see the astral realms quite clearly, and we do too. As soon as we say that, they run for their lives, absolutely run for their lives, and they're out. When I used to get, years ago, when I had demons actually try to physically choke me in my room, happened about 17 years ago, they came and started choking me. That's all I just said, name of Christ, and by his blood, and they were gone. So it's very powerful stuff. And for now, I could teach this whole thing in a message, but obviously we don't have time. Just for now, that's another thing you can bring in as well, and you may feel to bring that in. So we do that. Most importantly, though, is to know your authority. And we've just done a whole teaching on knowing your authority. So this is why, as I said, just keep on practicing it, and knowing it. So there's a good reason why Christ first said, as you can see, that the kingdom of heaven, it's literally is like a pearl of great price, which a merchant sold everything he had to attain it. And, best decision I ever made in my life was when I was about 16 years old, and I made that decision, and I never looked back from it, and walking the higher path. So to win this war, you've got to be willing to pay the price and do the work. So all of you right now, or some of you are getting messages, okay? And the messages are going to guide you, okay? And you're being called to a work. And it's because you're purifying your heart. And just keep in mind that when you sacrifice, so the laws of sacrifice, so the Satanists do human sacrifice, but your sacrifice is what the higher teachings calls a living sacrifice. You just say, like what Holly said before, I await your service. In other words, I'm at your beck and call. I pretty much said to the councils, I am your bitch. In fact, last year when they brought in the whole lockdowns and order, I just actually said, and I saw the councils one day in my room, and I just said to them, you're my chief officer, you're my dictator. I am just simply here. I'm your bitch. They kind of laughed, and I said, I'm serious. I said, I don't trust myself to make my own decisions. Right now, I said, but I trust you to guide me in the right decisions and give me the insight. And as soon as I made that call, it was like, right, they started speaking to me daily, constantly, because I gave myself over and I surrendered, the higher all. So you cannot have authority without being under authority. That's one of the greatest things that Jesus actually taught. You cannot have authority unless you're under authority. And the reason Australia is such a fucking mess and the Western world is we are rebellious, disobedient people who are the biggest know-alls and the biggest smartasses and the biggest think we know everything just because we got bloody good technology just about going. And the reason I'm given a lot of authority in the spirit realm is because I'm under authority. So the reason right now you can feel my authority is I know I'm under authority. As far as I'm concerned, I'm just here to do exactly what the councils tell me. I'm under martial law. I even said to them, I'm under martial law. I said, that's the martial law I submit to. And in fact, I've got to the stage now where I have such a good relationship with the councils that they're very serious, but sometimes we have a laugh. I said to them, there's only one martial law I'm choosing to be under, and I know whether I like it or not, I will be under martial law. I prefer yours than Daniel Andrews, Mark McGowan's, anyone else's. And once you know that, life becomes a heck of a lot easier once you give your life over and you stop trying to do it your own way. And it's the best feeling in the world. And you start to experience the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, all of your heart and your mind. and you move to a deep state of peace. And some of you right now are probably even feeling that peace. And in fact, in Isaiah, I shared this before. This is what I've been shown we're coming into over the coming days in this earth. You know, Isaiah talks about the age of Aquarius, or the golden age, and it says that the wilderness and the wasteland shall be glad. The desert shall rejoice and blossom as the rose. It shall blossom abundantly and rejoice with joy and singing. In other words, the dry places, the wilderness, has come to life. And that's how I see our country. It starts to come to life. The dead hearts come to life. And these are some of the best words you'll hear. It says, strengthen the weak hands and make firm the feeble knees. Say to those who are fearful-hearted, in other words, those who are terrified of what's going on in the world, those who are terrified of losing their job, those who are terrified of being jabbed against their will, those who are terrified of losing their money. Be strong, do not fear. Behold, your God will come with vengeance and save you. And look at what happens. That's when the eyes of the blind shall be opened and the ears of the deaf unstopped. What I was going to say about Reinhard Bonnke and forgot, that incredible healer in Africa. Bonnke came to Australia in the 1980s and literally hardly saw a single miracle. And he actually went back devastated to Africa. And when he asked, he prayed one day and said, what did I do wrong? And he was clearly told by the Holy Spirit, you did nothing wrong, but that country is completely blocked out by the dark and their faith levels are so low, they're not ready for your teaching. They can't hear any prophet right now. That's what he was told in the 1980s. He said, Australia is so dead, they can't even hear your message. We've had some great prophets come to our country, and I'd hear them, and all of them said the same thing. They said, you've got like a cloud of darkness over your whole country that just can't even be penetrated. And I've only just started to see it get penetrated in the last few weeks. It's really starting to break over here now. So understand we're heading in for the greatest days of the earth, but there's a lot more work to be done yet. And that's why you're being called to service, all of you. Because it says it's here, the parched ground will become a pool, and springs of waters will satisfy the thirsty land. And this is all a spirit awakening, which is starting to bring Australia and bring America, bring New Zealand into the fifth dimension. It says, and a highway shall be there, and it shall be called the highway of holiness, purity. No lion, no ravenous beast, nor lower astral realm entity, no Satanist, no being. And the redeemed of the Lord shall return and come to Zion with singing and everlasting joy. And Zion is what the name is for the activated city. Okay, so I'm going to finish off by reading one scripture to finish off, and then I want to get you to share, while I'm doing that, your lessons and just your messages, what you got today. Okay, just share what you got today. I feel to read Psalm 23. So Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures and leads me beside the quiet waters and restores my soul. He leads me into the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me, and your rod and staff comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies, and you anoint my head with oil, so that my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen. So what I feel to do now is just feel free to come on camera or take the mic or chat, whatever you feel to do here right now, to share your greatest lesson. Because or what you've been told. I feel some of you have really been given structure, and some of you can feel some change. So feel free to come on camera, as I said, rather than write a whole message if you want to. If you prefer to write in text, that's fine too. And don't be scared, I don't bite. I know I look like I do, but I actually don't.
I want to say something, but I don't know what happened. I feel the blood of Christ thing, just went through me, purified me. The thing that's always trying to attach to me, reattach. I felt like I got told to bathe it in the blood of Christ. And I don't know, I just feel like cleansed, different. I feel like I've got messages, but they're subliminal. So, yeah, I'm just going to take them in and let them filter through. It feels good, really good.
I understand that, yes. So they're subliminal right now, just let them process. Thank you, Sharon. So Naomi is much stronger in myself. Gail is to stand my ground and keep doing what I'm doing. For Mita, whenever I stand up, they'll be standing with me. Diana, we're in spiritual warfare. Sheldon, it's time to go hardcore. Wonderful. What about you, Holly? Are you still crying?
Hey, I was just typing, but I guess I should speak instead. Can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
Yeah, so it feels like it was like there were a council standing, and I was feeling like I was in service to them, but also they were at my service as well, in a way. Like, and I heard you saying that, you know, you submitted to them and you were their bitch, but in me, that wasn't quite the right way that I felt about it. Like it was like we were all strong in our own way, and we were like that. How do I explain it? It's sort of like in their helping, in me asking them for help, they're helping me, and we're all growing.
Yes.
Because we're all working towards that same goal. Yeah, so no messages from them so far, but I'm just loving that connection, actually.
I love that. Yeah, no, but what you said is spot on, because when you read the higher teachings, they're actually here at your service because they're craving to be used in service to help this planet, but they can't do anything unless they're given orders from people on this planet. So you're right with what you said. That's spot on.
Yeah.
You've been given a very accurate message there.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you for that.
My pleasure. I use, as you probably know, I deliberately use in very like descriptive, volatile metaphors, Holly, just to kind of wake people up if you probably haven't worked it out yet.
Yeah. It's good. I like it.
Yeah. So although I'm their bitch, they're my bitch too. You know, it kind of does work both ways. So Sashi, I'm a Gideon. I thought I was useless living under a lie. God can use me. I'm weeping and ready. Yeah, absolutely. Sharon, I kept dropping my head and lifting up my head. I was told, stop dropping my head, stop doubting, know what you know, stop thinking no one likes you. Yeah, exactly, Sharon. Sam, it's time for fruits of my labour to come forth. Christine, I'm feeling very loved. Miko, can I share a vision? Yeah, share it. Go for it, Miko.
Oh, can you hear me?
I can indeed.
I'm not sure if I shared this last week about how I went for a float, you know, those float tank things.
Yeah.
And while I was in there and in deep meditation, I had a vision.
Yeah.
Did I share that already?
No.
Okay, yeah. So what I saw was like right now there's a great big spiritual battle taking place. There's like dark shadow serpent like creature hanging over Australia.
Yep.
And as I was going through the meditation, I saw like the outcome, and then there was like a white serpent creature coming down, and there was a long battle between the two. And then eventually the black one dissipated.
Yep.
Like just poof, like disappeared. And then my vision led me to Uluru, and I was looking at it like from above, and I was seeing all these elders standing around it, chanting and bringing up a yellow light through from underneath Uluru, and then it sort of blasted through and shot up in the air, and then all of Australia was enveloped in this yellow light. And I've since come to learn like solar plexus chakra of the world is at Uluru, and that stands for self-empowerment. So after that, it was like I felt bathed in that yellow powerful light, and then we then spread that from Australia. It spread throughout the whole world. So that was just powerful. Like
that is very powerful. just so you know, what you just said, Smith Wigglesworth, the great healer, had in the 1930s prophesied over Australia, and he said that the greatest awakening that's been seen ever on Earth will start from Australia. And he said it will start from the west coast, from the west of Australia, like over the southwest of Perth, and it would spread across the whole of Australia. And he saw Australia lit up in flames, and he said that fire would catch and go throughout the whole Earth. And I've never forgotten that. And Grace would tell you in 1992 that a prophet in a church we were in just walked up to her and smiled and said, "You know about the tidal wave that's coming in Australia, don't you?" And she said, "Yeah, I do," because Grace had been shown it. But he said, "Get ready to surf the front of the wave, Grace, because you're going to be surfing the front of it." And that's why I can tell you now, we're seeing the starting of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That just like triple confirms what I saw and what I felt, because and it's coming from the west. We're just going to sweep all of Australia, because the tail end of that serpent was in WA, but the head was over like Canberra.
Yes.
So very interesting.
Canberra's got a massive satanic stronghold there. I know one of my friends was telling me about it. In fact, he went there to the mountain to go and do some high place work, and all these Satanists turned up out of nowhere and blocked him to stop him going up the mountain.
Wow.
Yeah, physically, turned up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well. I hope, that's...
Well done. Thank you, Miko. That vision was great. I love what you said.
No worries. Happy to share.
Electra, I actually agree with what you said here, Electra. It says, I felt a clear spirit of apathy, then rejection, then poverty, then rebellion. Although we're working them all together, I do agree with you. I think apathy is the thing right now that's getting knocked, that's being hit. That's the thing that's been penetrated. I agree. I think that the next stage, I actually agree with you. I think rejection and healing will happen in people's hearts and start to have more acceptance and love rather than division. And that will then lead to an abundant spirit, which will bring more abundance. And then that will lead to a greater submission and obedience. So, I actually agree with that, what you just said.
Can I just ask that, Warren, sorry? When you talk about submission and obedience, is that to a higher authority?
Yeah, well, a state of submission and obedience is like, how do I put it? It's like, for example, in my business, Holly, although I'm an owner, a key owner, Edward, I'm in submission to Edward in the management of the business, because if I say, no, I'm the boss, I can do whatever I want, our company breaks down. So although I have the ultimate authority, I would be wise to be in submission to Edward, and equally if I put a staff member in charge of procedures and they're creating systems, like at the event, I'm in submission with Grace, with Travis and everyone else at that event, and Jasmine, to make sure the event runs smoothly. So although I'm the main speaker, and without me being there wouldn't be happening, I'm in submission to the whole team. And then I'm also submitting to a higher authority and to the higher universal laws that I know exist. So when I say submission, it's very easy to submit to something that you have trust and faith in. Like if you know someone loves you and has your best interests at heart, you would submit to them instantly. That's what you find. And where people have trouble submitting is they've been wounded by the abuse of that. Like, my guess is you're probably very loyal, and you're probably very loyal, submitted in your heart and been very loyal, and people are taking advantage of that and really bruised your heart. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it could have been boyfriends, it could have been, parent, I don't know, but, whatever it is that causes that. So it's coming back. Submission is earned. Like, if Grace turned into a psycho tomorrow and started being a complete fruitcake with me, I would stop having any submission with her. But, Grace and I have a mutual submission to each other, because I know she has my best interest at heart, and she knows that I have my best interest at heart. And Grace had a lot of trouble, submitting, especially to the masculine, because of, abuse experience she had when she was younger. So that was a hard one for her. And, so she learned to submit in terms of working with me and seeing God through me. So how I see submission is I submit when I see God working through you, or when I see, and even with our government, like in WA, my rule is I submit strictly to our West Australian government unless they're doing something that blatantly goes against higher laws. Yeah. So if they came out with a blatant law that said that everyone had to bring their firstborn child in and the government was going to kill them to do a population cull, I wouldn't submit to that law, Mm-hmm. Whereas a census, I think, is a stupid law, but I don't really have a big problem with it. I just can't be fucked doing it. So if they gave me an order to do it, I would submit to it just because I don't really have a big objection to it, but I just think it's stupid. Whereas, say, certain laws where I was forced to jab someone, no, fuck that. There's no way I'd submit to that law. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So
Yeah,
it's
but
in their non-submission, like their rebellion, they're also not really looking to heal it or do anything about it. They just want to be aggressive about it. Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So, for example, submission in this group, people will submit to the group and what I say if they can see that I've got your best interest at heart. I'm teaching you the best and giving you the best. If I started turning into a dictator, an idiot, turning up drunk and telling you all fucking idiots all the time and abusing you, you probably would stop submitting to anything I say. Am I right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And this is what I say to, I've had friends who told me, that they they were submitted to their husband for years and got abusively treated and still got wounds. And they realized in hindsight, as I said, someone came to me and said, my husband just beat me. What do I do? I'd say, well, I wouldn't be submitting to that. I'd be told to be out in his ear and I'd, throw a saucepan at him and get the fuck out,
Yeah.
But if you got, like Grace and I, in fact, when we were married, we really didn't have a lot of problems, as she'll tell you, which is strange it sound. It's just that we were very different people. But one of the things we did have with each other was mutual submission. Like she respected me and I respected Grace. So, she used to even say to me, look, Warren, sometimes I'd make decisions that she didn't like one little bit. And she said to me, you know what? As the leader and the man of the house, I'm going to submit to it. But I want to express my strong objection to what you're doing. And when she'd say that to me, I would stop in my tracks and go, okay, Grace, so what's your objection? And usually, most of the time, if Grace had a big objection, I would end up changing my mind. Very rare, but I would do something different, So but generally, you don't have a successful, connection with someone, a successful business or work, unless there is authority and structure that you work within. Make sense?
Yeah, it does. Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, but wise authority would always be willing to listen. Like if staff have objections to what we do in a company, we'll listen to them because, it's sometimes because we would be wise to listen to them, and if they're fair objections, take them on board. And I think the problem with this country is you've got governments and people who are giving orders and then psychopathically having no willingness to listen to the input of the citizens and things like that. And that's what people are objecting to right now. So Grace has said, okay, yeah, we've gone a bit over time. Normally we finish by now, but Grace has said just to finish with a code, like we often do a mandala. So that's one code I've got. Grace, do you like that code or do you want me to get another one?
That's perfect.
That's perfect? Yep, okay. I feel for you to do that activation, Grace, on the code. I mean, I can command it, but I feel you then to kind of walk people through that just to visualize it. Can you help me with that?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, so all I want you to do is just imagine this. It's like a glass like wheel. That's what I'm seeing, Grace. What about you? I just see glass and open transparency. It's hard to explain. Like a film enveloping our minds, just to get a feeling it's like a film going right into your third eye and going over your whole aura, over your whole energy and over your whole auric field. Just get a feeling of that.
So, all right, if everyone can just do the breathing like what Steve has shown. And what I'll do is I'll connect this code and activate it with a tetrahedron pyramid and causing the energy and the frequency to spiral to the cosmos and bring clearance to the morphic field. Inviting the Holy Spirit, Mother Mary, Christ, increasing in everyone's vibrations, all those who are connected here. some of you might feel some aches and pains in the body. All it is simply the vibrations just increasing in your body to loosen things up. Using this guide to remove all the vices in the head, in the mind. Now we're just going to spin it faster. Drawing the blue light. Spinning all the wheels in the chakras with the blue light. Some of you might be feeling headiness. It's okay. Your mind's getting lighter. And I feel for William to finish it off, if that's okay.
I can't believe that. I literally just brought him in as a co-host. I was told to do it, just got an instruction.
Oh, cool. Then he can finish it off.
Yeah, you finish it off, William, and then I'll just thank everyone. You here, William? You must have just gone to the bathroom or something. Okay, well, I think he's gone to the bathroom. Well, thank you, everyone. So just let this integrate into you. Reason we do these codes, just so you know, I worked with Yvonne Delafleur, who's a brilliant spiritual teacher in Las Vegas, and she designed a lot of these codes for me personally. And in ancient Buddhist meditation by many of the great masters like Dipa Ma and others who are able to do miracles, levitate and all that, they do what was called Kazina meditation that would involve looking at codes and mandalas and activating them in your third eye to awaken your third eye, your pineal gland, and your auric field and your frequencies. And in the Keys of Enoch, they talk a lot about it too. When Hurtak talked about his vision and when Enoch and Metatron spoke to him and showed him that. So that's why we do that, and we bring this in just so you all know and understand why we do these codes. Okay, so we went a bit over today. Normally we finish by latest 1 o'clock Western Standard, but like I said, I felt we made some ground. Who really enjoyed today? Like who's feeling a lot more kind of empowered or just a lot more ready to go out and wherever your next step is, to go to a different, newer level? Holly loved it. Great, empowered, ready. Yeah, I can feel you stepped up, Holly. Naomi, yeah, there's quite a few people who stepped up here. So Grace just asked me also if we're doing energy clearing tonight. yeah, look, like I said, right now I'm enjoying the work and I think we're making some ground, so I like to keep going. So my plan is I'm definitely sometime around 7 or 7:30 tonight do some energy clearing over our cities and take advantage of what we're seeing. If anyone feels to join us today, well, put it up on the Telegram group, and you're more than welcome to come along and put into practice some of the things that you've learnt today. And then, of course, before we get back to normal week, and take some time to integrate everything that you're learning today. So it's actually, anyone here, if we did that, would like to come tonight? So I know you'll be there, Grace. Yep. Okay, great. So, okay, perfect. Okay, a few people will be there. So lovely. Okay, everyone. So around 7 or 7:30, like I said, just about half an hour to an hour. And thank you, everyone. See you then. And enjoy the rest of your day. Yes, it's WA time. Probably around 7 o'clock WA time. So it's 9 o'clock New South Wales. So we're not too late for our lovely Sydney and New South Wales and Queensland friends. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for being so open and being willing to learn and listen. It really, people like you are what's given me a lot more joy in the work that I'm doing, and thinking that we're seeing, that we've got a really good, it's making me much more encouraged as to the fact we can speed up and make a big difference in our countries before these motherfuckers take any more rights away from the people. Oh, you don't forget Victoria, yeah. Oh, no, don't worry. If Victorians are there, we'll do it. My rule is I only do clearings on places where people who representing that place come, because that tells me that they're ready. Okay, so thanks, everyone.